Alrighty, y'all. What is up? Welcome in. Hello. Thank you very much. Good Monday to you. What? Whoa, wait, what? Twitch. Twitch, guys, what is going on? Holy crap. We're off to a start, huh? Somebody came in here with some subs and caused some noise. What the hell? Wait, what did I miss? What happened? Why are we on a level 8 hype train? God. Alright, hold on. Turn the music down. Turn the music down. What have you done? There are gift subs flying around. Wait, let me get a hold of this. God's on Fire. Prime sub. Cubant gifted out 10 subs, starting us off, man. Getting in here early, dude. Thank you, man. Good to see you. Appreciate you. Valorant, of course, trying to piggyback off of your goodness. I don't know who this Valorant guy is. Ooh, I see Poutine Barbecue in the chat. Good to see you. Jay, thank you for the sub as well. And starting the hype train. Colt with the bitch. Shifty with the prime sub. Colt with the 100 bits. Cubant gifted out 20 subs. With Valorant, again, doing all this nonsense piggybacking. PK also came out with 10 subs and 11 subs. I'm sorry. He did one more. You got to keep an eye out for that. Talos also coming in with 100 bits in. Guys, what the hell? We've already doubled the goal for Twitch. You crazy, despicable human beings, you. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have all had a good weekend. Welcome back to another week of talking, and yeah, it's the Valorant thing. Just some weirdo. Did I come back to 41 subs? Yeah, Sorry? Alright. Mrs. Tomato is... The good times are rolling this positive Monday. Mrs. Tomato has been inspired by you good people of Twitch. She's going to be running a giveaway over there on Twitch in a couple of minutes here, so keep an eye out. I don't know what that's going to be, but congrats on that. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the Jump Space video. Tried the game yesterday and had a good time. I'm glad you had a good time. It is a good game. I hope that game can find the people who are looking for a game like that. It's not for everybody, but I think it's pretty freaking fun. This is how we start a Monday. Whole bunch of that kind of stuff, you know? No? Should I? No? Don't touch that? All right. Sorry. No more of that. Hello, though, Notification Gang. Maverick, Lurch Lord, Fola, Reese, Shifty, Wandering Mage, Fluffy Bottoms. Good to see you all. Welcome in. Thank you for getting in here. Thanks for joining me this Monday. The Monday crest days are wearing off. Sorry, I'm still waking up. Sorry I'm a little bit late today, folks. But you know what they say? If you're late, then it's fate. They don't say that. They could, though. You know, somebody I'm sure has said that before. So they most definitely do. Cypher, 07's to you, buddy. Good to see you. Cubant, I could say hello to you. You've already made the hello quite loud. Good to see your name in chat. I always want to say people's face. Good to see your face. What do you mean, face? There's no face. Unfortunately, cameras don't look like faces. Actually, that's fortunate. This would be terrifying if cameras looked like... I would not be able to do that. Mr. Frisch, hello with the socks. Brigadier, my man Bo. Brigadier. Hey, man, how is your computer doing? The technology, Grim Reaper has struck our good friend Brigadier Bo, and I haven't gotten the latest. I hope your computer has started working again. But it was troublesome over the weekend, I've heard. Mr. Masterblood, welcome in. Mr. Sugar, you welcome in as well. Why are we already doing subs, Cuban? PK's... PK's like, what are you trying to pull here, Q? All right, Toast Gang's got to get an update though. Cuban doesn't even have to go off the Toast Gang because it's already just got to update his numera to a lovely 20. PK. With the Secret 11, Valorant, just because you're so... You're playing the jealous friend, all right? You're coming in and you're just piggybacking off of them subs. We're not doing that. Now, State Farm. If State Farm comes in here. Elfwin, thank you, by the way, for the tier 1 sub, 4 months on. Appreciate you, dude. Hope you're having a good time. Ironclad when, Mr. Fluffy Bottom's asking. I'm gonna guess YouTube. YouTube? Sorry, I just read YouTube on the whiteboard there. I'm gonna guess Invictus Week of last year. Next year. Sheesh. Sorry, I don't know how to talk. That's what you get for being late. You miss all the fun. That is true. That is true. It's not fate if you miss all the fun. B5, welcome in. 07's buddy. Jay. Mr. J, the bartender, your 4-month strike. It's been some time. Well, it's always good to see you. 4 months, huh? You do the drinks, right? How has that been treating you? How's the bartending? Wait, no, you cook. You don't just do bartending, but your name is bartender, right? Isn't that how it works? Dweemore. What's up, my friend? Ken, Mr. Ken, welcome in. Is the music still a bit too loud? All right. Sounds like a new giveaway has started for Twitch. ! Ticket into the chat on Twitch will get you an entry into that one. And oh boy, I am going to fall behind on chat now. Looks like that is going to be a giveaway for the Queeriness Tech undersuit and helmet. Oh, you want yourself an undersuit, folks? A big old fat thank you to Twitch. Boom, 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 boom. You've been getting lost in Onyx sites all weekend, and you love it. The Onyx sites are great. We just did a playthrough on Friday. If you were here for it, you saw it. If not, it'll come out as a gameplay video. But it was good. It was cool. I like running through it. I think a lot of people are getting more confidence about their ability to tell a story because we've literally never had a storyline in Star Citizen. And it was a little slow starting off, but I think it's been a pretty exciting time. Still sick? A little bit. It's just kind of wearing off now. Yeah? All right, this just in from management. There are also YouTube. You're not missing out completely. There are 2 giveaways that we still have going on that anybody can get into. Okay, all right, because we are grateful. We are grateful to both. Even YouTube sometimes has to have some nice things. No, don't worry about it. ! Giveaway will make that pop up for you. And the 2 that we have going on right now, one is for the Avenger Titan. That is a game package. Copy of Star Citizen, all the goods with it, a couple, 1,000 credits, access to the game, and a nice ship to start out with. You can save that for yourself, or you can gift it out to somebody that you know and love, or that you hate, and force them to go into the game. Kidding, I'm actually quite enjoying the game lately. The other giveaway that we're doing goes through the exact same link, and that one is for a copy of Jump Space. Actually, 2 copies. The good folks over at Keepsake have been kind enough to give us a few copies to give away to our community. Literally just because it's such a good game and more people deserve to have it for free. Honestly, it's only $20, and I think they did a good job of putting it at a price where you could buy it for your friends if you want. But we're not going to make you do that. No, you're a part of the garden. You have the chance to get 2 copies for free. Probably you only get 1 because, that's how giveaways tend to work. But it will be enough for you to gift to somebody else you like, or to get it for yourself. You can join us on Discord. We're doing regular play sessions of Jump Space. I'm not even going to say we're doing regular play sessions. I'm playing regularly, but I've played with different people every time. So if you do get the game, make sure to jump in there, get active in chat. Maybe we'll get a chance to play together. But yeah, 2 giveaways still going on. Exclamation point giveaway is the link. And on Twitch, exclamation point ticket will get you into the exclusive one. Best $20 you spent this year. It's Deep Rock and Space mostly. Dude, that's what I was thinking. I made a video on the main channel for Deep Rock, or for Deep Space, for Jump Rock Galactic. And I titled it like Deep Rock Galactic in Space. I'm not gonna lie, I was being a little cheeky with it because Deep Rock Galactic is technically in space, but then again, everything is in space, right? But it has so many people are commenting that Deep Rock Galactic's already in space. And I'm like, well, yeah, they can both be. Both links go to the Jump Space giveaway. You should be able to scroll down. No, they both should be going to the, you should be able to see both giveaways. I can see both when I follow the link. It's on. Deep Rock missions are held in caves. Yeah, I mean, if you could keep going and just be like, well, everything's in space, right? Sim City takes place in space if you look beyond the atmosphere. So, what we been up to? What you guys been up to? How y'all doing? You enjoying your gaming time? Enjoying any news from? I don't even think there's really much Star Citizen news going on right now. I got the dev tracker up. We could do a little look at that. And I was thinking we could probably check out the Star Citizen live I missed with Benoit. Because there's not really too much to go over, to be honest, this Monday. Just kind of chatting and chilling and hanging out. Is this Space in the room with us now? Space is all around you, my friend. Did I see the GameIndustry.biz interview with Sean Tracy? Sean Tracy did an interview. I haven't seen that. That might be something to cover. When did he do that? GameIndustry.biz. Is .biz a address? Sean Tracy interview. See if it pops up. Got some, oh, that's from Quantum. Game industry dot biz. This better not take me to some new partnership with a 3D scanning company. Are they leaving, who is it, 3 lateral? I think they were using before. Are they not using them anymore for their face tracking stuff? If you just search game industry, Squadron 42 Tech. There we are. Oh, it's forbidden. Why is it not letting me through it? Stop it. All right. We had to use Edge, you know. It's so bright. What do we think is going to happen? Making your assumptions about CitizenCon. Yeah, CitizenCon, it's an important one, actually. It's a surprisingly important CitizenCon, though they aren't really treating it like it needs to be. That doesn't sound right. I think it's an important CitizenCon because of how much information they've withheld this year and how many things are kind of up in the air in terms of mystery. I don't know if they're going to answer the questions that they've left unanswered for the whole year, but I do think that there's there's more expectations for the game are higher now than they are traditionally. And on top of that, the information drought has been actually higher. It hasn't hit as hard because they've been doing a lot of content and updates, but the actual amount of information they've released, I would say rivals last year, if not goes further. And last year was awful. Last year was the worst information drought we had since 3.0. Not really information drought. That was more of a content drought. Little bits of information, but we don't get any sprint reports anymore, and don't do as many deep dives into feature development. So it's like, it's weird to categorize it, but I would say that this year for sure has been a very, very small amount of information on the feature development they usually do. And generally, the way they handle it is they'll do the normal amount of feature information throughout the year, and then over the summer, they quiet down because they're kind of holding things back for CitizenCon. This year, they didn't have to quiet down. They just kept doing what they were doing. So now, the expectation, at least in my mind, is that during CitizenCon, we get to see some rather mature game systems that they've talked about before, the stuff that they've talked about getting into the game from like CitizenCon 2023, a little bit of CitizenCon 2024, and even some of the sprint reports that we had when they were still going on. In your mind, a game in a space setting is different than a space game. That is definitely true. Absolutely. Checked out the movies the studios worked on. It's basically every large Hollywood movie uses them. Yeah, well, sounds like that's the direction CIG would go in. They love that. It'll be a 2-hour sprint report. That sounds amazing, to be honest. I hope it's a 2-hour sprint report. I feel like I hope that there's not fluff, you know? I hope it's 2 hours of very dense talks, obviously with some breaks in between. For instance, if you go back to CitizenCon 2022, so like this was kind of the same. This was a digital CitizenCon, but there was a ton of stuff. Like, look at how long this like introduction is, you know? We're like 10.5 minutes in, and they still haven't really gotten to the juice. And then they get to basically just showing us planets on Pyro, which was interesting at the time. I don't think, though, genuinely, I don't think a lot of people are going to be that interested in a presentation that just shows us about the art of Nyx. Everybody wants gameplay systems now, you know? That's what it takes. That's what we're here for. We know they can make planets. You prefer action over words? This year we got action. We definitely got action playability-wise. Maybe not so much feature-wise. How come it went from saying year of stability to year of playability? This word corporate play has made me lose trust in CIG. It never changed. It's just the story again of the community choosing to say that they said the year of stability when they never did. I keep asking people to show me where they said year of stability. The only thing really that gets close to saying year of stability is here, where they say a more stable universe. But if you actually listen to this episode, they don't talk about just stability. They talk about stability here. They talk about performance here. And then they talk about all the content here. And then if you go back to the letter from the chairman at the beginning of the year, not even the beginning of the year, this is the end of last year. Like, they made it very clear. 2025, a focus on playability. What included in playability? Performance, stability, and content. It's always been the way. The community just finds a way to assume they've said more than they said or something, and then it leads to frustration later on. But in my opinion, I think they've done a decent job at all three of those places. I would say stability could still be doing better in terms of like how the persistence is going. And I would love to see them get the missions back that are missing. But they never said year of stability. You see the video of their new screening room? That video was more ISC than ISC this year. I saw a picture. I didn't see any video, no. You want them to tell you if they'll prevent your ships from falling through the lift. Nope. Permanent. Always. It will always fall through the lift. That's what it feels like, at least. There will be marketing in there, yeah. Hesperia's Stinger, if you don't already have a segment plotted for that. I have no real insight on the Stinger. I honestly haven't paid much attention to the leaks. I don't follow ship leaks all that much. Pretty sure it's a heavy fighter, if not a bomber. Vandul. But I don't know. I don't have much to say about that, other than like it's been in a couple videos here and there. They've shown it off in Squadron 42 promotions, but I guess it sounds like maybe it's coming to the PU. Jared spoke on it, taking a step back. Spoke on the studio, the viewing room. What's up, Hustle? Oh, the company that put out the video made like I see. So they put out like a little trailer about the creation of the studio. But even that letter, is it just in other words? People took it as year of playability / stability. Yeah, but I think that's like, it's just a case of, it's a game of telephone, right? Some people will read this and they will read that it's a focus on playability, and they'll think about what the most important thing to them is, which is wanting to have the game be stable. And so the translation to that, when you go and you share it to somebody else that you met, is, oh yeah, they're talking about playability, you know, getting the game more stable and making us able to play it. So then that person has heard it from a second party source, and the two words they heard were playability and stability. So they assume, okay, they're working on playability, you know, stability. They don't also see that it says content very clearly here, which is a really big part of that. And I mean, hey, you know, that's corporate speak. That's them. That's CYA. Cover your own ass. Say things so that when you focus on those certain things, you don't get caught for not focusing on the other things you said. But like, that's how they play it. And it helps to continue to come back to this to see that. As for this one,
fix an elevator.
That's an example.
It's
right?
okay. All right. So I want to talk about the three areas that were covered in the letters to the channel. We'll start with stability.
Yeah, he's already saying that there's three areas, and they're starting with one in this conversation.
So I know this is going to sound like a simplistic question, and there are probably lots of Star Citizen. I can see them in the chat right now. JJ Land 614 says no one cares about bug fixing. Is everybody right? Is JJ Land 614 right? Everybody? Sorry, there was no reason for me to do that.
Sure.
So lots of people who have followed these shows and they know parts of this. I've seen the people in the chat. I already know this because I watch everything. This is a show for everybody.
Right.
What does working on stability really mean? What is we've had a lot of platitudes here, and sure, platitudes are necessary. They're helpful to explain things, but translate this into real world shit for me.
Right.
I use my one swear. What does working on stability actually translate into as far as action goes?
Well, it translates into aggressively monitoring what we call internally stability. Covers like some of the very simple metrics, like do servers crash, right? Or do hybrids crash? Do clients crash? And together, do these cause client disconnects, right?
All right. So if that's the measure for stability, would you guys say that you are experiencing less client and server crashes uh, now than I guess the beginning of the year? Just
And so
keeping
all
that
these
in mind.
metrics go into what we call basically stability, but it goes further than that. Those are just basically the indicators, like the big level indicators. What stability is like things like bare bone things, like are you able to successfully connect to the game?
Can you log in?
Correct. Can you do successful interactions? Like, can you go to your ship and press F to join your cockpit and then not it take 35 seconds?
I think one of the things is like they need to stop having updates that come out and basically break the game. So even if those persistent bugs and stuff are still hanging around in the game, there shouldn't be any updates that come out and act like 3.18 did or like 4.0 did, where if you're a casual person who's never heard about Star Citizen, but you want to try it on a specific day one of an update, you should be able to get in the game. I know every MMO deals with things like queues and first day of update sort of problems because everybody's trying to load in. But from what he's saying in terms of stability, it does sound like they shouldn't have any more momentum breaking updates like that.
Is it consistent and reliable? Meaning, like, is it like this all the time? Or is it there only sometimes, right? So stability is about consistent and reliable experience interactions. It's also, when we work on stability, we're talking about improving the observability. So teams that, when you guys are playing the game, you have a very immersive experience, and issues that affect you during your gameplay are part of your bubble, right? We need to be able to see those issues from the outside. So from the server side, from the cloud environment side. And so improving observability gives us that, because there are many systems in the game that have not been instrumented to be observed, right? And so sometimes, some older systems, I'm not going to name ATC, are going to have like some hiccups that we can't even see, but players report to us, and then we have to investigate, but we need more observability. So that's working on stability is part of that.
So I'm seeing in chat, a lot of you are saying that you are getting client crashes, but not server crashes. Some of you are also saying you're getting server crashes, but not client crashes. So clearly there is still a lot of variability in how people are experiencing the game. But we all know that. You go on Reddit, you talk to somebody, you go to Discord, people are telling you things that are happening in game, and you're like, this does not happen to me. And it's pretty easy to have a different experience than other people do. That also is part of stability. There should be fairly consistent experience in the game between most people on most hardware. Server side is one thing, but if some people are getting client side crashes and other people aren't, that is definitely, that's a problem. That's more down to stuff like Vulkan crashes. Well, it would be great to see them get Vulkan into the game and everybody is on, a set renderer that they know they are building for. I think that would go a far way to increase the stability as well. That's probably the kind of thing that they've wanted to have in for most of this year, but haven't been able to yet. Weren't those game-breaking updates basically stuff not being tested? More so like, stuff that just doesn't get widely enough tested. They don't have enough time to get it out to enough people, so they have to push it out to live. And then when it gets to live, all those problems are much more clear.
Changing systems that typically are problematics into self-healing systems so that they can just repair themselves. So when they get into a case that we know, we just modify the system to make sure it tends towards a state that's functional. And the observability comes into play to make sure that it does function. Working on stability also means establishing budgets. So budgets for errors, budgets for performance. And so that affects everybody in the company. But if we talk purely on stability, it's all about, is the content that we've produced here or the feature we've produced here using too much resources, whether it's CPU, GPU, server calls, bandwidth, storage, networking. So reinforcing those budgets, going about finding the offenders, right, that go above these budgets and chasing them down, solving them. So that's stability work. Reducing error rates, obviously, that's part of it. That's the resulting. And the challenge with working stability is that, especially in light of server crashes, is that it's a fog of war. So you can launch a game and you're like a version of the game, and there's one crash that's going around. We can identify and dedupe crashes, right? So we know what they are. So we're looking into one, and then we're like, oh, if we fix this one, it's going to be very stable, right? But then when you fix that one, that allows the program to continue. And then more bugs show up, more crashes show up. So it's a fog of war. It needs a constant care and attention. One thing we've done this year to help that is that we have a much more robust hotfix process that, frankly, we use a bit too much, but it does give us the ability to get some fixes out when we see big problems right away. But it's to contribute to that fog of war. So that's what working on stability for me is. It's all of these issues together.
Do the same thing for performance.
Sure. Performance is...
This is an important one because I feel like sometimes we mean performance when we say stability and vice versa.
It's a larger one. And so performance touches on both the client, the hybrid, and the server. The hybrid is the replicant that takes care of the networking. And so performance is about, obviously, frame rate to begin with on the client and on the server. We talked a little earlier.
Have you noticed frame rate going up for you on the client side? Obviously, we've noticed it on the server, but I've heard mixed results on client.
About server optimizations. It's about loading times. So making sure that the load times are acceptable in all kinds of areas. Like, I'm not just talking about the loading screen. I'm talking about loading in assets, streaming in an area, fully initializing a full location, right? That's the load times I'm talking about. Memory utilization. So making sure that we use efficient memory, that we don't go above our memory budgets. Same thing here. The keyword is budgeting. So we need to have way stricter budget. We need to work on that area. And then finally, resource utilization of your machine in general, but also network connections. So latency and bandwidth, connectivity, and stability of the connection in general that need to be improved. So that's what working on performance is. So stability is one area, performance is another one.
All right, so who works on these things? Because this isn't, so we're talking.
You're noticing 80 to 100 in Orison. My performance is still not where I would love for it to be. I still notice frame rate drops, but over the last, I want to say like 3 years maybe, I've probably, and this also includes some computer upgrades that I've gotten, so this isn't just about the game. But I've seen my frame rates go from probably on average 25, maybe around 25 to 30 to, I would say between 40 and 60 now. So that's been really nice. But yeah, I there's definitely plenty that needs to be done to continue that. And luckily, we know of some stuff that should make a difference in the short term.
Major change here. We're taking people off of features and putting them on new features and putting them on existing features, existing work. This isn't something that vehicle artists do. They get to keep doing their thing for the most part. This isn't something that somebody who makes a distribution center for the environment team does. This isn't something that somebody who makes a really unfortunate heart-shaped bed for the subscriber program does.
It was performant.
Who's the person who's actually who are the people that are actually doing this work? Who's changing to do this stuff?
So it's again engineering, right? That has a large focus on stability and performance, but it's also, we have a team, an online team that takes care of what we call site reliability. So these guys are definitely the first watchers of all these metrics, and these guys will call out issues that we need to solve, right? And then they will loop in engineers. And so that's the core of the people working on this. But I kind of want to push back on what you just said about like, oh, the guys on the ship team don't have to do performance, right? Which I think that sometimes the way things are made in the game have a very big impact on performance, right? I can give examples, but like areas of levels that are created with hundreds of entities, right? Instead of using like a bare minimum, or there's techniques to use where group merging certain objects need to help reduce the actual effective size of things. So the teams on content are also kind of on the hook for performance, less so on stability, but they're on the hook for performance. And so they're not totally free, but they are less in the line of fire, because typically an engineer is needed to identify a problem first, and then it might reach a content team depending on what the issue is.
Okay. What's the difference between an engineer and a programmer?
Okay. So then they talk about some of the things that they want to change. This is a really long show. I'm not going to go through a bunch of it, but a lot of this actually is talking about performance and stability changes. And that's probably really what made people think this is the sole focus of the year, is that they actually didn't get into too much content talk here. That being said,
streaming with these orders, and
the next time that he comes on, again, he is the CTO of the company, so he is very integrated into these kinds of talks. He's sort of everything surrounding the way the game works goes up through him, and they are now... I mean, CIG has changed a lot of the way their communications work, and basically anything that we want to learn about these sorts of advancements comes from him. And they hold off on talking about any of them until he's ready to come on the show, so that they have a more controlled and central, knowledgeable point of reference, and less things get said that don't need to be said. Not necessarily the new Tony Z. Tony Z was meant to be sort of in the same position that Rich Tyrer is in right now. He had his hands all over the place, gameplay systems, back-end simulation, and then also the stability and performance. Benoit is basically just concerned with the engine development, the tech behind it, and that kind of stuff. He's not really on the game side of things. So I don't actually know who their previous CTO was. But Benoit's definitely a lot less theory and a lot more, this is what's happening this is what's happening in the game. They talked stability. The SC community is not crazy. I'm not saying they're crazy, man, but it's not called the year of stability. You are conflating the idea that they talked about stability in a Star Citizen Live with the idea that the whole year was focused on stability for CIG. Stability might be the most important thing for the player group, but it's just not what they said. That's all I'm saying. I agree with you. I would love for stability to be fixed and be better, but they very clearly said that they were focusing on 3 categories of stuff this year, not 1. 6 hours today fighting bugs to do a hauling mission. That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. So this is the latest talk with Benoit, and this one kind of gets more into less about what the problems are and more about what they've done to solve those problems. Figured we could watch through this. I'm thinking probably we do half of this today and then find another time to do the other half. And because yeah, it's a really long video. But I don't think there were any other questions going on in chat. You could actually look at this thing real quick about Squadron 42. This is an article put out by GameIndustry.biz covering an interview with Sean Tracy. Is there a way to find out who killed you? There actually is. It's not only it's saved in the game files. I think you can pull it up with the console command too. But I don't remember what the console command is. I'm sorry. All right. So, this again is an interview with Sean Tracy. Ooh, it's kind of long. Yikes. All right, I guess sit back and prepare yourself. This is gonna be a bit of a read. But it's basically Sean Tracy talking about some of the tech in Squadron 42. So it starts off with the headline, the cutting edge of performance capture technology in Squadron. So this is very, very tech focused. This won't be finding out about gameplay stuff, just a heads up. Starts out, Cloud Imperium's much delayed multiplayer space trading title, Star Citizen, has been in development for well over a decade. But now it is seemingly nearing completion. Why is this kind of talk starting to leak more into these articles? After having raised more than $867 million through crowdfunding. In a recent interview with La Presse, oh, that's why. Cloud Imperium CEO Chris Robertson said Star Citizen is aiming for 2077 or 2028 launch window. That is why. Its single-player spin-off title, Squadron 42, is expected to release next year. Squadron 42 features a superstar cast including Gary Oldman, Gillian Anderson, Mark Hamill, Andy Serkis, and Henry Cavill, to name a few. To create digital replicas of these actors as well as player characters and other NPCs, CIG utilized new 4D technology created by a unique partnership, which includes a Hollywood VFX company. That's the technology where you can smell people when they get close to you. Very cool. Good stuff. Smell-a-thon. As part of this collaboration, Clear Angle was involved in the custom character creation and NPC scans, but were not involved in scanning the talent. This was an additional provider. The capture service was DI4D. Post-production texturing, XYZ. So basically all this to say there's an interview below at Pinewood's headquarters. And this is actually an interview with the game industry people between GameIndustry.biz and Clear Angle's studio. So, not sure if Sean Tracy's actually included. No, I don't. Oh, yeah, he's got his name here. So I guess he just kind of pokes his head in. Gets introduced right here. Okay. So let's start this out. First question is, how did each company combine their areas of expertise? Ridley said, we've worked with and alongside DI4D regularly over the years. We have our scanning system on set, and DI4D had theirs on set next to ours. But since we developed Dorothy and we do the 3D to 4D scanning, the collaboration we'd like to pursue with DI4D is that we capture and process the data and they do the mesh tracking. So if they have jobs that come in from LA, gosh, I can't read this. If they have jobs that come up in LA or London, they get us to do the capture and they do the processing. It's a very synergistic way of working together at two companies. And then as part of that, if people want data enhancement, it then goes to texturing XYZ. Everyone stands to gain, and at the same time, the client stands to gain as well because they get an end product whose barrier to entry is quite high to hit. And very expensive too. It's a harmonious relationship. No one's treading on each other's toes. In any part of the process. It works well. It works really, really well. We have no intention of doing mesh tracking, and there's no way we can do that. Texturing XYZ CEO Jeremy Celeste does. And Jeremy has no interest in doing scanning, and neither does DI4D. All we want to do is the scanning, so it's a great partnership. So they all just cover different parts of this process, and it's all a package deal, I guess, for CIG. Next question was, what is it like working with CIG? They're very much at the forefront of what they're doing. It was fantastic working together. It's really nice seeing how much collaboration there can be between these companies who do different things. Everyone's much more open these days about their tech and trying to work together rather than keeping everything secret. CIG are quite happy to tell people what they're doing because they feel like what they're doing is quite unique. By the way, these are two different people answering. You have to see the screen to know that. Whereas companies like, for instance, Epic Games, other companies like that, they're a lot more protective. Wow, they just named the company. Okay. Cloud Imperium were fantastic collaborators because they were super open. They told us exactly what they wanted, and although it was challenging getting to the high enough level that they were demanding, it was clear and concise. We could do that because we had good instructions, but they've got a very strong leadership team. They know what they want, they're very focused on their goals, and it was nice to have that clarity and to work at a very high level. The next question was, how much further can photorealistic graphics go in a way that's noticeable and affordable for consumers? Now we've got Sean Tracy, it looks like, getting involved here. First, an introduction to him. Sean Tracy, Cloud Imperium Senior Director of Tools, Tech, and Content. For some clarity, Sean Tracy was a pretty high up person at Crytek back when they were working on the when they were doing more of kind of Crisis stuff, Crisis 3, all that jazz. And around 2013, I want to say 2014, he left Crytek and moved to Cloud Imperium Games around the same time that Cloud Imperium Games was really getting deep into the dirt, into the weeds of scooping out the CryEngine and creating their own engine from it. For a long time, that was known as CryEngine. At one point, the license holder changed to Amazon because they started to use Lumberyard due to the AWS services. Essentially, that was still a version of CryEngine. It was just forked, but CIG over time has really benefited from getting a lot of the people who originally were working on the CryEngine at a time when Crytek was struggling to pay those people. They got a whole bunch of those folks over into their Germany office, which is where like Planet Tech came from. It's where a lot of the technological advancements in the engine overall have come from. And now you can see Sean Tracy is still here doing interviews talking about this a little bit of his baby. So, what did he have to say? First, they say about him, the potential for photorealistic graphics is far from exhausted. No, is this his quote? Yeah, this is his quote. He says the potential for photorealistic graphics is far from exhausted. While the industry has achieved astonishing results, especially with the use of photogrammetry, there's still room for innovation, particularly in performance capture. What's just as important as visual fidelity, however, is representation, ensuring the diversity of human experience and appearances is authentically captured. This goes beyond pure realism. It's about empowering players to see themselves accurately reflected in the game world. In short, there's still a path forward in advancing photorealism, inclusivity, and accessibility, all while keeping the technology affordable for players. I'm sure that statement won't piss a whole bunch of strange people off. Crytek USA, to be specific, which went the way of the dodo. Yeah, it's interesting how many of them showed up in Germany. Doesn't BDO use CryEngine? Black Desert? Online? I don't actually know. What are you guys talking about on YouTube? A message that pops up for when you die still? Is that what you guys are still talking about? There is a way to find it in your in the game files. I've been meaning to include that in a hold on. I've been writing a video about like top 5 tips for beginners. Oh, I don't have the instructions in here though. Nah, I've never been I'm not an MMO player really. Star Citizen is the only MMO that I've ever really gotten into. And that's because it's a space game. I'm not really drawn to MMOs naturally. But yeah, I've never played Black Desert. At least I'm assuming that's what BDO is. All right. Another question. Will all players be able to benefit from this technology? Will they be able to see this level of detail on base price consoles in comparison to the PS5 Pro and high-end PCs? Now, why would we worry about consoles? Not even an MMO. You're not wrong. Black Donuts online. Extra chocolate. Sean Tracy said to this question, absolutely, this technology is designed to benefit all players regardless of their platform. We've developed a system that other companies license to other developers, but instead of offering a third-party solution, we integrate it directly into Star Citizen and Squadron 42. Players gain full access to these advanced capabilities within the game itself, ensuring everyone can experience the level of detail no matter their setup. Imagine if you finished it off the last sentence and he was like, we actually have already confirmed that this all works on the PS5 or something like that. Oh my god, that would be wild. Not to say that that's not going to happen or anything, just that would be one hell of a way to unveil that. Yeah, Squadron 42 will probably end up on consoles. I think most people are expecting that at this point. Well, most people who are following a lot. Alright, next question. How has Cloud Imperium implemented this technology? Ingham said, for what Cloud Imperium is doing with Star Citizen, it's having a range of people because everyone's faces move differently. The other person readily answered, a lot of what they do in games is what they'll capture a 3D scan in Dorothy, and then they'll do a 4D capture and use head-mounted camera data. That camera would track the way the face moves, and it would also move the 3D scan. The high-res scan would be driven by the performance from the head-mounted camera, because there you can run around with a gun. You've got this thing on your head, but at least you're free to move and jump around, and your face will jiggle depending on how you're moving, which drives the high-res scan. That's often how it works. Jiggle tech. Let's go ahead and state this right now. CIG is working with this company on Star Jiggle. Yeah, Star Citizen should stick to PC. Agree with you there. Next question after the jiggle check. Jiggle tech. Chickle check. How affordable is performance capture becoming for smaller or indie studios, or is it still in the realm of AAA devs only? Huh. Better question, Sean, do you consider yourselves a AAA dev or an indie dev? Sean said, performance capture is more accessible now than ever. Advances in technology have led to more affordable hardware and software options, making it viable for smaller studios. While high-end setups for large-scale shoots with multiple actors can still be costly, there are scalable solutions available for indie developers. Tools and software have been democratized to work across a wide range of configurations, meaning mocap is no longer exclusive to AAA studios. For most developers, it's now easier than ever to integrate this technology into their projects, regardless of budget. Next question, or last question. Would Clear Angle like to collaborate with more game studios in the future? Ridley says that would be the goal. We do a lot of collaboration across all the productions we're on. Huh, so have they not done a game before? It's certainly what we're trying to do, advancing more into the gaming side of things. If there were more game companies interested in this type of high-level scanning, then yes, we're up for it. We want them to know about us. That's the key here. That's the kind of narrative that we would like the world to have about us so that we can open up this tech to everyone, even with environment scanning. Interesting. So they're not actually that involved in games as of yet. I do wonder how widespread this sort of performance capture and scanning is in the game industry in general. Obviously, it's stuff that's more common in AAA studios, but I do wonder how many games actually will use that kind of stuff. Anyways, here's a little interview for you. Not much about the game, but maybe a little bit of information on the tech you'd be interested in. Ah, yes. The Dead or Alive beach volleyball game series. The pinnacle of immersion. What wasn't that literally a fighting game that they just made a spin-off beach volleyball version of the fighting game that was popular enough to stand on its own? Or was it its own thing first? Because if it's the former, then that is actually insane. I'm surprised we don't hear massive campaigns about Gamers TM trying to bring back the series. No, I'm sorry. If they brought back the series, it'd be too woke, of course. I shouldn't have even said that. There was another article that came out recently that was talking about indies beating AAA studios. I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to find this article. It was it's pretty recent. The age of the indie. I don't remember what website did it, or let's see if I could find it here. Because I was reading it and I thought it was really interesting. It kind of they were describing what makes an indie versus a AAA studio, and I thought that was interesting because it's sort of changing a little bit as more and more big studios become self-funded. Or if you look at you know a company like CIG, and you're like, well, they have AAA funding, but technically they're an indie company. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to find that article. I have no idea who even made it. This interview dropped the PS5 was spotted in that theater video. They did ask about console optimization. Have we gotten to see what the Tavarin looked like? There is a picture of the Tavarin. Yeah. Just this. I think this is the only official picture we've seen. This actually might be some old concept art. This is really old concept art. So you never really know what's real and what's not, or what they're still going with and what they aren't. But they're pretty bird-like. And I don't know. Oh, there's way more art than that. Yeah, I haven't seen all of it. But this is the most popular one I've seen. And so you can get an idea at least of what they look like from this. The direction that they're going in with it is pretty clear. Just some concepts, yeah. Whoops. Between now and the end of 2025, if you had to pick one thing CIG could add and surprise us with, one thing is hard to pick. I would want to pick like I want to say like a functioning dynamic economy, but there's a lot of little things that we need for that. So is that really one thing? Seems like cheating. Or Nix. If you wanted to get Nix, like, does that include all the little things that have to come with Nix, or is that just Nix the star system? Engineering, would that be like including fire hazards and life support? It's hard to pick one thing, you know, because one thing, it's got baggage. Based on how far along they were last year, you think it's a good chance we get a clear view and maybe a release of Nix? I will definitely be seeing Nix this year. Engineering is one thing, dude. I wish, man, when they put in that monthly report, when they said that they wanted to make, they're like figuring out how they want to categorize or silo the gameplay in engineering to deliver it in chunks. It's like not surprising, but kind of a bummer. Social tools would be cool too. That is yet another category of stuff, though. All right, let's start the episode 1, part 1 of the series of what the heck has been going on in Star Citizen to make it more stable. Actually, a decent chunk of this is stuff that's coming up ahead, but I think a large part of it, at least this first part, is going to be kind of like, what have we been doing to make the game more stable? We talked with the CTO at the beginning of the year to see what they had in mind, what kind of problems they noticed. This is going to be less about like the big, fancy features and stuff, and more about what do we actually see going on. I don't know if I'm going to publish this, to be honest. This is so long. It's going to take so much editing to cut out all my chatting and stuff, but I think it's going to be an interesting talk. And I know I'm like, 3 weeks late on this now? 2 weeks late on this? Who cares? Let's get fun. 3 weeks.
Let's get it on.
Hi, everybody. Just gonna let Benoit do that thing in the background.
It's a good song.
The show's actually started, Benoit, so this will be on the YouTube version. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's where we take about an hour, although not in this case, it's going to be a lot longer, out of the end of our week sometimes, and talk to you, the Star Citizen community. We put our developers to the test. We have them answer questions. We have them talk about various aspects of their work. Sometimes we show off really unfortunate plushies that never made it into production. We do all manner of things in this show. On the show this week, we are doing the prophesized sequel to a special edition show that we did back in the beginning of February this year. Now, for those of you who might not remember, or you've joined the project since then,
we remember because we just watched some of
back
it.
In February this year, after Chris Roberts announced in his letter from the chairman a fundamental change in the manner and focus of our development for this year, Benoit and I took to SCL and spent 2 or 3 hours. I don't remember how long.
About 3.
Would have been good to look at that before I came here. To just shoot on everything. Talk about everything under the sun. Figure out what these changes really meant and stuff like this. And we said at the end of that show that we'd be back in roughly about 6 months. So 6 plus 2 is 8. It's 9. Would you expect anything less?
That's right.
So we're back. We're back today. Do a quick recap. All right. First, the Earth cooled. Then the dinosaurs came. Now we're back to talk about a whole variety of topics. This is not your traditional Q&A show where we take questions from the community, although if we see some good questions in the Twitch chat, we might throw them in from time to time. This is our interview format. So we have worked out a series of topics that we want to cover. Based on our previous conversations, we expect this show to go a bit long. So, if you got someplace to go, be sure to check out the YouTube replay later. If you'd rather listen to or read an AI summary or something on Reddit, I can't stop you. I can't stop you. But yeah, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. We're gonna do what we're gonna do. Let's jump into it. Let me start by introducing our guest, the man who needs no introduction, but we're going to do it anyway. Chief Technology Officer, Mr. Benoit Beauséjour. Benoit, how you doing, man?
It's getting better every time. Your pronunciation, it's always going up. It's great. I feel good. I feel good.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, who did we? We just hired. Just added somebody to my team, and I've never she's worked for me for about 6-7 weeks now, and I've never once tried to say her last name out loud because I'm afraid.
That's okay. You can do it.
She's not watching the show, so she doesn't know I'm talking about her now.
Good.
Benoit, who are you and what do you do for Star Citizen?
Well, I am a developer, and I am the Chief Technology Officer for CIG.
That means that I oversee everything technical, so gameplay engineers, engine engineers, graphic engineers, AI engineers, everybody who touches a computer almost, that's basically my job.
And how much of everything that's wrong is your fault?
Well, people on Spectrum would say everything,
All of it.
but yeah, I mean, basically, I empower all the teams to build the game, and so technically, everything kind of is my fault in a way, you know.
Balt's fault.
That's
Balt's
right.
fault. All right. So, like I said, we got a lot to talk about today. Who knows how long it's going to take, because it's not like we have any time to rehearse or hash any of this stuff out ahead of time. So we're just going to jump into it.
We'll do it
Ooh,
live.
We'll do
hey,
it
good
live.
call. I can speed
So
this up a little bit.
part one of this show that I'm inventing right now in my
But no,
head,
I'm not watching the whole thing
I
right now.
want to call part one the year of playability. So the year of playability is not necessarily a statement that we ever made. We didn't say it in the February show or whatnot. But it comes from that letter from the chairman that went out at the end of last year with I think it was like 2025, a focus on playability. It's a fair assessment of the mission that we set out for ourselves at the end of last year. Have we during the February show? Remember, guys, we're figuring this out as we go along. It's been a busy week. So during that show, we talked a lot about how Star Citizen had been going in one direction for about 10 years. Since the launch of the PU at the end of 2015 and up until the end of 2024 and whatnot, roughly about 10 years there. We were on one kind of mentality. We were on one. It changed a bit with when 3.0 came out after that big long period where we didn't ship for 8 months and my beard went crazy and whatnot. But we went to this very feature driven. We were on this very feature driven, building the foundation of the game kind of attitude for so many years, where we didn't take a whole lot of opportunities to stop and look at what was out there and spend time on fixing that and hardening that. And so it was always about, we got to get the next thing out. We got to get the next thing out. We got to get the next thing out, because we have many of the same thoughts our backers do. It's like you got to get this stuff out. We decided that in 2025, because of the impending release of Squadron 42 in 2026, and the need to let those people focus on that and getting that closed out and whatnot, we were going to allow the engineers that their focuses remained on Star Citizen to take a step back from new feature work and look at hardening and fixing and addressing a lot of the longstanding issues. Now, I said a lot. I didn't say every. It's as many as we can within the time. It's a 10-year journey towards one direction doesn't get turned around and fixed in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And we said this at the time.
There's a One Direction joke in there somewhere.
Nonetheless, there's still people who, we see the same comments, guys. We see the same things like, oh, so much for the year of playability. That was literally my brother. I'm not making fun of anybody else. I'm literally quoting my brother. And if you've ever met my little brother, that's exactly how he sounds, because he plays the game. He plays the game, and I get crap for my little brother. It's not just the backers. It's you, Clark. Welcome to the show. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. It's how all little brothers sound, at least in our heads. Just wanted y'all to I want to make sure everybody knows I was making fun of one specific individual that I share genes with.
I also sound like that sometimes when I talk to John Crew. Like, hey, what about my ship?
So let's talk about this year of playability and how it's gone so far. We said we'd check in six months later. We're roughly here. How's this year of playability gone? What have we done? What have we achieved? Where are we at in our process? Are we happy? Benoit, you do the Benoit thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to go a bit further out than just the beginning of the year, right? Because let's take same date last year.
Okay.
So let's go full 1 year back. The state of the game 1 year in the past was
Anon,
still
thanks for gifting out that sub, mate.
server,
Appreciate it.
DGS, right? So we're talking about maximum 100 players per game shard, one server simulating all of the universe, no second star system, right? So only one star system. Server performance, not good.
4 or 5
right?
frames.
I mean, if you're lucky,
You're
right?
lucky. Like when you load it in.
Like the parameters for us to launch a patch was basically 7-ish, which is horrible if you think about it. And so that was last year, right? So we start from far, right?
We were still in the clutches of 30K.
We were still in the clutches of 30K, correct? So we did have some level of server recovery, but a lot of issues related to it that could have side effects. Some of them are still present. We'll talk about some of those. And so, fast forward to now, like the assessment is a lot better, I think, in my mind, right? Like, obviously we've had the release of 4.0. Like, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. I'm not saying it's been just a straight line. Like we've taken some dips and then improved the stability and the quality of the game overall. But obviously we have the 4.0 release, which came with static server meshing, which was the element that we needed to free up server performance, right? So on average now, when we look at server perf, I mean, other than some egregious problems which we've identified, we get per territory stats now. So basically, we don't just get like server FPS is X, right? We're gonna know Stanton server FPS is X, or Hurston server FPS is Y, and so we can compare depending on which territory what performance we're getting. And FPS is just one of those parameter, right? There's a lot more. But let's stick to FPS just because it's a simple mental model, right? Because it does have an effect on your gameplay. So nowadays, on average, server FPS is up 20 easily, right? Obviously, some zones, like let's say when we launched, I think Stormageddon, there were some issues affecting those zones that made those servers like dip below that quite a bit, and so they drag the average down. But overall, the game server performance is way better. And I think having 600-700, we've pushed up to 800 players per shard, which is something we're pushing at right now. We'll talk about this if we talk about server meshing a bit more. And so we're going to be pushing this really hard moving forward. But I think that if you compare last year to this year, in my mind, it's not the same game. Completely not the same game. Like now, if we look at even the stats from our players, like session length is up like 10x. It's not even comparable.
Yeah.
So that means people play for longer periods of time and they stay online. I think server recovery is a big help for that. Though the stability of the game server is also improved dramatically. And so, this is all because of the efforts of the changes that we've done, not only to the priority calls, like you just explained, right, which is taking where we're going and trying to slowly shift it to change direction, because a team like this of this size doesn't switch on a dime. It takes a long time for these changes to trickle in. But now that we've got kind of the big organizational changes in, that we're starting to see and reap the rewards of it, which is I hope is showing in the game. Anyway, it's showing for me, so I'm seeing it. So that's.
He does have a point. It has increased. I mean, server stability is probably the biggest thing that's improved. Not having to, being able to have up to 700 people is way better than it's ever been. I think a lot of people are expecting that number to keep going up consistently. I certainly hope we can expect to see another increase in the player cap soon, but I would have never even imagined this game running with 700 people in a shard a year ago. That just wouldn't have happened.
So compare 1 year back to now, I think it's night and day. There's still a long ways to go. I'm not saying we're happy with this. I'm just saying.
Yeah. There's folks in the chat specifically talking about, okay, well, let's go do Hathor and let's go do this. And you alluded to that there. You're talking about a macro sense throughout the entire persistent universe, every single aspect of the game. It's to call out specific, this specific area is bad and this specific area is bad. That's not what we're talking about. We acknowledge that, and some of those are areas that still need improvement. So, as we do this Russian nesting doll kind of conversation and go down, we'll start drilling down to individual aspects later in the show. At its broadest though, overall, the things that would just prevent people from being able to log in, the things that would prevent people from being able to stay in, those larger scale issues that it doesn't matter if you fix the other things. If you're constantly getting a 30K, if you're constantly getting kicked out, if you constantly can't get back in, it doesn't matter if we've improved Hathor performance if you can't get to Hathor. Those bigger things are what we're talking about here, and those have seen some measurable, marked improvements. I mean, an improvement from 4 to 5 FPS to 20 FPS is huge. Nobody even talks about 30K stuff anymore. Server recovery is, I mean, it's hard to make a trailer or anything. We sat there back when we thought about how do we make a trailer for server recovery and stuff, and then it's like we did it for 2 reasons. And I'm going to talk a little bit here about why marketing pushes some things and doesn't push some other things. One is there's no real interesting way to show it without you've all seen the server recovery screen. You're sitting there and doing that, but also I'm just going to be real. We're only 13 minutes into it. Let's get to a real moment of truth here right now. Over the course of the 11 years I've been here, we sometimes toot the horn like we've invented something that honestly should be standard. It should be standard. It's if we were doing things different, if we had different priorities at this point or whatever, that would have just been a thing we would have had before. So we couldn't have. People
hate this, by the way, about feeling like they're always reinventing the wheel.
Server mesh. We couldn't have server recovery before because we had to. It was part of the whole nesting architecture within meshing. So we had to build an infrastructure before you could have a recovery that would bring that stuff back. So the way that we chose to do things meant that some things couldn't come to later. I mean, there's people again. We'll talk a little bit about org stuff and stuff. We still don't have orgs in our game and stuff. Those are things that are foundational that you would find in day one of other MMOs, and we're here 10 years into the PU and we still don't have it. So I want to be real clear that when we talk about this and we celebrate our achievements, and I'm really proud of our achievements this year, the stuff that Ben Watson are real. This year is a night and day difference from last year. I think anybody being real candid and honest with themselves would admit that. At the same time, I want to be candid and honest and be like, I also don't want to pretend like this was we invented the wheel and whatnot. This was the change that Chris set out for us last year. It's, hey, let's slow down, let's refocus, and let's find those things that we lost along the way and catch back up. Does that mean a slowdown on new features? Yeah, it does, and it has all year, as we said it would in February. But just a little reality check for everybody. I want you to talk about how we did it, though. We're going to spend some time. We're going to talk about freight elevators and all that stuff right now. But up here at the top, though, how did we do this change? What were the organizational changes and the operational changes that we did that made this possible and that are going to continue for the foreseeable future?
Well, so there's a series of things like company-wide that have had to change for this to happen. The first one, we talked a little bit about this in January, which was the idea of having hero cards or Joker cards, I call them, on specific issues, right? And so we've and then it was funny because people were like, give the Joker card to this other bug, right? And it's like, yeah, that's basically what we do. But we've extended that concept a bit further. And I hate that we changed the name, but we did change the name, and then we call those hero squads now. So what we've done is that we've taken a subject, for example, transit, right, which we've extensively talked about in January, and we've made a hero squad around it. So that means we've dedicated resources just to all the bugs related to one system, right? And we've changed the methodology. So the way that we used to deal with bug fixes in the past is basically engineers get the bug report, they put it in their task list. At some point, they emit the fix and they ship it in a patch. Now, as the patch release comes closer and closer, those bugs get verified and or need to be accelerated. And so it's always a bit of the fixes are valid, they're correct, but we don't have time to test them fully. We've had a lot of regressions, right? And so regression was becoming a problem because we were going too fast to try to solve some issues. And so some systems like transit are complicated enough that you can't just emit the fix.
I want to pause you there. What is regression?
Regression is when I say I fixed bug X and I've created bug Y. So it's basically when we're introducing new bugs or breaking other things because we try a fix. Okay. And so regression was a big problem on the project in general. That was in part because of the speed at which things were going, the code review process, things like this. So these hero squads, basically we flipped a bit the relationship. So we decided that fixing issues, let's say I'm going to keep transit as my hero squad example because it's an easy one to reason, but we've put resources dedicated to it. And then we got the QA teams to basically derive the priorities within the squad. So instead of saying, hey, production management is going to, drive the priorities, we got the QA leads to do that. And so now these guys were completely driven by player impact. And so when they look at issues, they're like, is this impacting players or is it a fringe issue, right? And they decided on the priority. And it turned out that priority accuracy was a lot better. And we asked those teams to be relentless into what they want to reach. And so classify the issues in order. And then the moment we get a green light from these guys, it's a celebration because they are hardcore.
I've seen a lot more Nathaniel Fisher this year than I ever saw.
The Nathaniel Fisher seal of approval is a real thing,
I think that's a big change. That's a much bigger change than it comes off as. But allowing the people this is like what people always complain about, is that it doesn't feel like the changes or the things or the decisions that CIG makes are based around them actually playing the game, because the devs may not play it. At least the QA people are playing it. They're paid to play it. We know they're playing it. They probably have at least some type of similar thoughts about the gameplay. More in common with players than with developers. So for those people to be able to have the ability to block a feature from going out, I think is actually a really, really big change for the company and probably a good move. Something that they likely couldn't do until they had enough features to be like, okay, we have enough to offer people. Because the game's only recently got enough stuff together, I think, to make for multiple interesting game loops.
I want to inject. Brunks76 says, Benoit is wrong. Regression is when old issues resurface.
Yes, that's also a definition that works. But we use the same word for both at CIG. But you're kind of correct. The proper definition is that's an old issue that comes back. But in this case, the thing is the issues are so close by, and typically it is resurfacing an original issue. That's actually one of the issues with those big systems, is that bug reports are so similar but are sometimes completely different circumstances. But
Yeah, two things, three things, four things that all cause the same outcome.
same symptom. Yeah, exactly.
So hero push squads. We got
Correct.
that. The embedded green light is what you just got done talking about. You know, letting QA sort of manage their priorities and green light things.
No, that one's a bit of a separate one actually.
Right.
So the hero squads is really about getting our QA team to drive the priority on a specific subject and drive down, right? One of the change in methodology for the devs on those team is like a bit of a change in approach. We in code review for in these hero squad, we no longer just accept the fix based on code change. We ask the developer to explain what the problem is. Can you reason at why this is happening? Second, propose a change, right? And then the leads can validate this change before we start even writing any code for it. And then we verify the change with QA. And then that's when we actually allow the change to come into the stream at all, right? So we do a lot more work before the work is actually started, a lot more work before validation before it actually gets submitted. And so on those teams, like developers working on those hero push squads have a much more methodology to apply to solve that, because basically in the past the regression rate was too high.
Right.
And so the big advantage of that setup is that those teams are faster to react because they're dedicated on one subject. And so if there is a regression, because they still happen, they're faster to pick it up. But then the fixes are slower to put in. But that still has been very effective. So Transit is one of our hero push squads, which to me has been kind of successful since the beginning of the year. Like I think the transit system, we're going to talk a bit more about it later. It's in a much better shape. The embedded green light is what you just talked about, which is that was a major organizational change. And so in the past, the way that game devs at CIG on Star Citizen would work is that they would submit in tests later. And now, I know that sounds crazy, but it is what it is. It was what it was. And so at the beginning of the year, we set to completely change this. And so we added this embedded green light process. So what is an embedded? So embeddeds are QA testers that are embedded in a dev team. So it's not, no, everybody has a view of like there's a floor of QA people, and then they'll receive a build and they test the build and stuff like that, right? But there's another class of testers that are embedded in teams, and they become specialists in what that team is doing, right? So, if you have an embedded tester in the FPS weapon team, those people know all about FPS weapons, how to test them, what change affect what, and so they can judge what they have to test. So the embedded green light is we gave that team the power to red light any change before it's submitted. And so that's a big culture shift, because it used to be hot and fast, get it in, we'll test and fix later, right? If there's issues, and we trust devs, to we don't trust.
Literally, it was constantly that. So many of the features that we got added to the game in 3.x don't get used because it was just like, make sure the feature works. Which I get, as an alpha, you just want to try and get features into the game to make sure they work and they can be used with the game. But at the same time, a lot of them also just didn't get integrated really. Push and pull functionality, for instance. Obviously, it's important to the game, functionality that they want to make sure works, but there were no reasons to do it for anybody who was playing the game. You could kind of RP some stuff and push around some dollies and things like that, but you didn't need to. You could also say the same thing for the racing rework that came to Grimhex, where they redid the whole Grimhex area in anticipation of being a location that might host races. It did host races, but those races never used that location for anything. So it was kind of unintegrated and thus felt a little bit forgotten, I guess. The cargo deck on space stations is another one. The mounted gun that they post outside of bunkers is another one. Just things that clearly do need to work for the game, but got added in a way that felt like it was okay that they might have been whimsical and worked a little bit flimsy as long as they were in the game, and they were never really touched on again because it was just okay, it's in. Let's move on to the next thing. Let's keep going. And honestly, that was how they kept people excited. That's how they kept us interested in the game. Things are different. I keep saying things are super different now, but when you look at the way that CIG acts and what they're clearly prioritizing to keep people interested in the game, it's so much different. It's no longer about what features they're working on and what exciting new thing they're going to add in the next patch. Now, it's all about what is the story? What is the content? What armor are you going to be able to get? What weapons can you unlock? Are there new missions being added? It's a lot more focused. It's more tangible now, which is good, but not all good. Obviously, I think there are strengths to move fast and break things. Keep adding features. I hope we go back to that to an extent, because we do need to start seeing features come back in. But this idea of making sure it all integrates and actually works properly, I'm glad that they've reached a point where they feel like they can do that more consistently.
Devs, we need to verify, we need to check it, right? And the whole point of this was to hit on regression or side effects, right? Because our rate of regression and side effects was extremely high, right?
I want to I'm just picturing the comments. Somebody can screenshot Benoit and say, Benoit by Azure 2025, we don't trust devs. Go ahead. Right there. Do it right there. Right there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we've had embedded QA for years. This was about empowering them, in order to be a bulwark against letting this stuff through. Another new term I heard this year, hygiene initiatives. Now, when I heard this was coming up, I thought it was something else. Anybody that's worked in a game studio knows that every once in a while there's that desk you walk by and you're like, I thought I knew what this was about. It wasn't what I thought it was about. Right. What are hygiene initiatives?
So this is not about BO, if that's what you're referring to. But hygiene is a collection of initiatives related to cleaning up errors, logs, and in general, just reports we get from the game engine that can signify errors or not. So if anybody's ever opened the console in Star Citizen,
enjoy the chair stream for a bit. I'll be right back, guys.
What the hell's going on, right? Because there's tons of messages going through, all kinds of stuff. Well, that's what hygiene is meant to clean up in a way, right? Now, these things will take us a long time to clean up, algorithmically, but we do have the same problem of signal to noise ratio in other areas. So like when environment artists are working in the editor, they get level warnings, right? Well, there's a ton of those warnings that are either irrelevant.
Thank you very much.
Warnings, right, and errors. And so the issue is, level artist is going to get some warning. He's like, can I do anything about this, right? Oh, there's 50,000 of them. Probably I don't have to worry about this, right? The reality is one of those is actually an issue, right? And so the hygiene initiatives is like a collection of things that we need to change in how we build the game to clean up these things so that the errors are meaningful. We have the same thing on the data core side. So for those who don't know the game data, so all the records we use to configure, the components or all the game data, right, is stored in a database called data core. And there's a ton of errors in data core that are reported, schema violation, things like that. That they're not fatal errors, but they're still there, and we allow them to be there, and that's historical in the past. And so the hygiene initiative is a means for us to reach zero errors in those areas, so that we can then prevent them from even being submitted in the first place. So hygiene is basically pre-submit verification on things and concerted efforts to solve these things so that we can be in a clean house. It's like we want to clean the house, right? So that we can do better.
Somebody in the chat was saying, I missed it, the name. It said errors that should be warnings that should be infos.
Yeah. Bad classifications of things. So we even have now systems put in place in the assert dialogues and that pop up so that you can report a bad error.
You report a bad error?
Literally, now we get reports for bad errors so that devs can go in and fix the wording or change the severity or things like this.
And there's something we did so that certain teams, if the pop-up was directly related to them, they couldn't just dismiss it and continue with their work?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So I feel like an AI when I say that now. You're absolutely right. But we changed the way the assert dialogues work. So asserts, for those who don't know, is like when I'm a programmer and I'm asserting in an area of the code that this value must be set to 1. That means that if the value comes in and it's not 1, then we'll have an error, right? That will show up. That's the assert error. And typically, you need to action asserts, right? And so, or something else is going to go wrong. And so historically, the assert dialog was just a global thing. And then we still have those get assigned to dev teams. So they are classified by code owners and by dev team. And so you can know if it's an audio assert or if it's a programming assert or whatever, which is great. But we allowed people to ignore those either completely or just skip them, right? And on the other hand, when you're actually testing the game or playing the game, you get these asserts, so you want to ignore them because you're doing something else. You're not in assert fixing mode. And so what we've changed the relationship towards assert inside the company so that now you can ignore errors for any other team but yours. So if you get an assert error, you need to fix it. That's it, right? There's just no, because the thing that we were seeing in the company was like basically teams going like, oh, when are these, I'm going to pick on audio, but sorry, Graham and team, I'm not picking on you guys, it's just random. But like, when are the audio guys going to fix their asserts, right? Whereas the reality is like we all have our own asserts to fix, and so we change that relationship as well.
Yeah, it's again, over years and years, you get this mentality. So it's like I just need to do my work, and the game is telling me there's an error, there's an assert for some unrelated thing. Like what I'm working on doesn't have anything to do with that. Doesn't have anything to do with that. So you smash it. You smash. It's just like selecting all cookies because GDRP made the rule that now everybody's got to announce their cookies on your website. Now I just accept all of them. All you've done is you've made me hit a button. We get in this habit of hitting button and people, and this is one of those things like people. We're admitting this here, guys. Talking about where's open development. I'm like, well, we're sitting here saying that too many people got in the habit of clicking the button. Whatnot. It's
we've even found some. I'm not going to blame anybody, but we've got analytics inside the company, so we know who's putting the certs off, right? So we found some shit.
Paul Rendell, I miss you. I'm just kidding.
No.
That's certainly not fair.
Paul's a good guy.
No, he's
Paul's
a good guy.
He's the one putting the shit in.
I didn't know he was here either. I ran into him today. He gave me a hug. I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was on hugging terms with Paul Rendell. That's nice. All right, so we've talked hero push squads. We've talked embedded green light. We've talked these hygiene initiatives that all help the way in which we make the game and make the patch and make our content and stuff. We also started an initiative. I want to keep this under organizational stuff, but tell me if I'm wrong. The stability score. Things. Talk to me about our internal stability scores and how we've determining them and how we're using them.
Yeah. So stability score is, I don't think we've ever discussed this publicly.
No, I don't think so.
So we have this measure, which is an indication that we use, and the team that actually comes up with this would already tell you it's alchemy, right? Like it's not an exact science, but it does give us a pretty good idea. So we try to establish a stability score for every build, right? We actually auto-calculate it based on the data that we get.
Not patch, every build.
Every build, yeah, every build. So like we send a build to PTU, or QA or staging environments or whatever, and we always have a stability score that's calculated over time. And so what the stability score is, I don't want to go into the alchemy of it, but we're trying to figure out basically the stability of the environment. And so if you're connected to a game server and you get disconnected, we're going to count that, right? Now, the reason for your disconnection will be used as part of that. How long the build has been running is also part of that equation, and the concurrency of it is also part of it. And so with this black magic numbers, right, we basically get a score out of it. And the score is one thing. Now we've put labels on it. So we used to use the score internally as just a number, like, oh, it's a 0.0, and it's a 0.08 build, and then at some point I got a bit fed up with that because I'm like, what does that mean? And so the values for this are optimal, excellent, stable, unstable, volatile, crippled, or critically unstable. So that's the range, right? So we go from optimal, which is great, stability score, to critically unstable, right? And all of the thing in between, right? And this is based on, all the stats that we get, and we kind of auto-calculate it. Now, we still have Jeffrey Pease, our internal alchemist, always, playing around with these numbers or adjusting the score, telling us how bad we're doing it. But it is actually pretty accurate in terms of like what the perceived stability will be from a player's perspective. And so if I compare, what was September 11th last year? Was it like 323 or maybe 4 at that point, right? 323 or 4, I forget which one. I would say like the stability score for 323X was probably in the kind of unstable range, right?
Okay.
That would be a normal range for the 3.2X, this kind of thing, right? So the stability score, service score for 4.30, for example, is between optimal and excellent. And so that means the rate of server crashes and disconnections overall is really good. Now, this score is not just server crashes, right? It's also client crashes or client disconnection, right? So if everybody gets disconnected because one of our cloud routers dies, then the stability score of the build will be terrible, even though the servers are up and they're running real fine, right? So it kind of encompasses everything. We're trying to get one number for all of it.
What was the stability score for?
Sorry, guys, I had to step away for a second. Fighting a bear outside, living in the wild and stuff. What did I miss? Stability score? Stability score is an interesting one because I bet anybody in their right mind would not have thought there was a stability score, at least up until this year. And I can't get over that. I can't get over how much this game has changed while our mindsets are still kind of catching up. Not to say that they're running perfectly. I feel like every time I talk about this, it comes off like I am praising this for being one of the most stable experiences or something, but I'm more speaking comparatively. A stability score, I wouldn't have even thought they were really considering that during the 3.x updates. So, but did the bear win? I mean, look at me, man. You should see the other guy. Do I look like a person who just got beat up by a bear? If you say yes, that's rude. I'll ban you. If you say no, did I miss subs? What? Cubant, you gifted out 5 subs. Colt Gimber gifted out 2 subs. Why y'all doing this while I'm gone, man? What? Oh, God. All right, fine, whatever. Updating you, Cubant. Appreciate your support, dude. Thank you for making this all possible. I'll take this time to say, we have also put in a couple more orders for stuff we're bringing to the event coming up in a couple weeks. So we got some stickers. Mrs. Tomato is putting together a whole goodie bag for anybody who's going to be attending this event. Again, there are a couple free spots left in it. So if you want to get into that, just jump onto the Discord and there's an announcement. Or you can use the command !fund. That sends you to the page to help fund the event. We're throwing a community event to follow Digital CitizenCon presentation this year. It's going to be an in-person thing in San Francisco for anybody who's out in the area who wants to come through. We will be streaming into there. You can join us on the voice channel and Discord, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we're still getting some details quickly done. And you can also use that !fund command if you would like to help support the event. Every dollar helps. Every dollar that is put in there goes towards making sure that the people who are joining us have food to eat, and the venue that is joining us can actually afford to keep the venue open, because otherwise we're just gonna dine and dash. We're just gonna scram out of there. Maybe we'll leave them a copy of like an Avenger 1 or something, or a picture of a javelin, some concept art. There's value in that, right?
For 318.
That was critically unstable. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because actually the server, if you just took the server score for 318, it wasn't that bad, but it's everything before it. That's why it was so critical in the 318 areas. It's because it was really a massive backend.
That's what I'm saying. He's like, wait, did he say it wasn't so bad?
That's why it was so critical in the 318 areas. It's because it was really a massive backend. You know.
Oh, it was critical in 318. Yeah, before 318, we were actually fairly solid. But even at that point, I don't think anybody would say that the game was as solid as it is now, as stable. Before 318, you could play and not have as many crashes. In between 318 and 4.0, there were a lot of crashes, right? But if you were not in the game before 318, then you might not know that we just had this general period of the game acted okay. And it would be patch by patch. You'd tell yourself, is this a good patch or should I skip this quarter? 317, great time, because they just stayed on the same code base for like 3 quarters. 3.12 time period, pretty solid. Honestly, I don't remember any other specific patches that were really good besides those. But again, playing Star Citizen during the 3.x period of time was so much more hit or miss than it is now. And that's not to like they have removed missions and content that we used to have.
Thank you
from
very
what we
much.
have now in the 4.x era. Man, but the reliability, whew, it's going to be funny to look back on even now, you know, when the game finally is in a better place, or it's finally ready to release, or whatever you want to call it. We'll look back even on this time period and be like, man, remember when you just wouldn't want to do anything in game because you didn't know if you'd have that ship in the next update? Or you didn't know if you were going to fall out of your spaceship? That's still a problem that we kind of deal with. It's nice to think about those times, but honestly, when you reach those times, it's really easy to forget about how bad it was prior to that.
Problem at the time. So yeah, let's not talk about that. We're past that now. But
The 2 things we don't talk about: that damn holiday live stream and Alpha 318.
Anonymous, thank you for gifting out that sub. Cypher Greybeard, congrats. Welcome to the sub club.
Everything that came after it. There was nothing about the holiday live stream that needed to happen. So,
you don't want the makeup? Let's go back with the makeup. Okay. So yeah, so that's the stability score, right? So that's an interesting measure, and I mean that proves that we've kind of really improved the crash rate on game servers. So the server errors that you get. Now we need to do more on the stability score, because with static server meshing, even the stability score is sometimes skewed. We have run into area local crashes that would crash loop a server, right, nonstop, and so that really contributes badly to the overall score of the build.
Yeah, we've had that. We've definitely had that this year. It's really interesting though that one part of the game can be crashing while other parts are still working.
It's one area, so we're discussing how we can do more territory-based scoring as well, so that we can get a better idea. So basically, what I'm saying is we can't get an actual just single number for all of this stability stuff. There's always some factors that, we've had AMD drivers or NVIDIA drivers issues that affect stability scores in some builds, and so.
So how do we use that to determine whether a build goes live? Like, is there this? It's I see these. I see an aspect. Let's just pull the curtain way back. Why not?
Yeah.
I see the question. Is it worse than what's on live now? I see this question come up a lot in internal conversations. When, let's just be real. If we try to wait for everything to always be optimal, we release very few things.
Correct.
That's
the nature of shipping a game as in development.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here try to hide or pretend otherwise. But so we know that not everything is going to be optimal. But where do we draw that line? How do we draw that line? And is it more than just? Is it worse than what's currently on live?
No, we always try to shoot for better than live, right? When we can. But there's a lot of things that we look at to be able to ship a patch, right? Now, obviously, for this year, it was a very big change for the development teams, because moving to a 4-week cycle means that we are always shipping. Like, how we have a ship date, right, that we give ourselves, and a schedule, and then we've got our gate reviews, and everything is like chained up to get there. Well, the closer you get to this date, right, when you get from the player's perspective, when you guys see like daily PTUs go, and it's always update, that's because we're getting close to the release, right? And so we're trying to get to the date, and we're trying to validate all the things we need to validate as fast as possible. The focus is really on shipping. So even minor issues become top priority, right? And so it's been really difficult for the teams this year to keep up with this, because we finished the patch like, yay, okay, we're late for the gate review. Like literally, it's going like this. And obviously, we balance this across multiple teams, but there are teams.
Yeah, this is a really important. I'll let them finish.
Unfortunately, they're on.
That's kind of a Kanye move, huh?
And so they're always on it.
Yeah, Benoit, you're good, but I'm gonna let you finish, and I'll talk about it. No, I just wanted to double down on what he's saying, and we've seen a lot of signs now this year during Star Citizen Lives, during interviews and stuff, that the pace that they've set for this year is too much. It's too fast. It's funny because Chris Roberts, back in the day, I bet you I can find the reference to this. Let me think. Pretty sure it's on the Kickstarter, actually. Kickstarter page. You go back to this, and all the stupid little promises that he was putting out there that, so they definitely come to fruition in some cases, but like, I'm of the mindset that a lot of the promises didn't need to be promised at this point. But if you search for 2 week, update, maybe? Back here, I believe he was talking about, here we go. We're not interested in having yearly updates. Once live, we will have a team of people adding content on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Now, I don't know. I'm not a MMO connoisseur. Okay, I don't know how MMOs deliver content. I don't know how live services game delivers content. How many times a year does Fortnite put a new skin in? I don't know. 2 weeks though, every week or two seems like a really, really high level of activity. So I don't think that's gonna happen. But even now, with this sort of monthly patch, and yes, this is during the time that 2 games are getting made and they're still kind of in the alpha phase and all that stuff, caveats aside, the rate that they're working at right now is so fast. We on the outside can barely keep up with it, right? We can barely keep up with what patches in PTU and what's actually supposed to be tested soon. And I don't think it's a bad thing per se. I think it's really worked out for them this year. If there's any indication of that, then it is probably their funding, which is 41.6% higher than it was at this time last year, which last year was 1,001% short of their all-time funding goals, dude. I can't believe it sometimes. I'm sitting here making content for this game, talking about it, and I still cannot believe that they can pull that off. But yeah, I think the monthly updates has definitely helped their funding a lot. Keeping the game solid has helped their funding a lot. but I don't think it's something that they're going to be able to keep up for a long time. I think we're like in this stage of Star Citizen's development where Squadron 42 is at like 100% effort and Star Citizen is at like 50-60% effort or whatever. There's a balance there, and at some point Squadron has to drop down so that Star Citizen can take more of that precedent. And at that point, I expect there to be a lot more stuff coming into Star Citizen, but I really don't expect it to be like this. It feels like they're in emergency mode almost. You know, it feels like 2025 is like their weird year. I'm hoping 2026 isn't also a weird year, but I think it will be. I think 2026, if Jared is coming out in this very Star Citizen Live, Jared says, we're still working on Squadron 42 for 2026. We don't know if we're going to make it, but we're working towards it. And that statement of we don't know if we're going to make it has put a lot of uncertainty in a lot of people's minds. But I think that uncertainty also kind of means that next year might also be a crunch year for them in Squadron. So maybe we see, again, another year where they pick this sort of weird, we're not putting a ton of developmental engineering effort into Star Citizen, but we are putting a lot of effort into creating a whole bunch of updates for it, which means content deliveries, which does mean high pace, which, like he's saying right here, does mean the possibility of, yeah, as is mentioned in chat, burnout on the devs that are working on that stuff. It means backers and people who are playing the game getting a little bit, over the way that they're handling this, which is ship sales, content drops, and bug fixes, as opposed to forward feature development. They run a lot of risks here, and I don't envy the position they're in. I think that we don't get to hear just how intensely intense things are at CIG. I think that this has been like one of the most nail-biting years for CIG in their entire history, if I'm being honest. But it's hard to know that from the outside. I'm just judging from things that developers have said, which is, for instance, like the audio people mentioned that they needed to get audio work done for Rain so that they could get Rain into 4.2. It wasn't because they were naturally working on Rain audio. They saw that there was an update coming out and they said, okay, we got to pivot to work on that. And how that proliferates throughout the company can have a big effect on the company's morale, on how it's functioning, how it flows. So I am interested in seeing how they come out of this year. They've been doing very, very well in terms of funding and even in terms of new members. It's easy to forget that like a game's popularity is also pretty important to how it's doing. Look at where they are. Look at where the freaking they are, dude. I can't believe it. It's not even just the same people spending more money. There are more people still joining than last year. I can believe it because the game's going better off. Okay, I'll give them credit where credit's due. It's still surprising to me because while the game is better than it was last year, it's still not in the place where I would expect people to be jumping in constantly. And for them to be almost on par with 2023, they're behind. They're not where they were at the beginning of September right now. So they're about a month behind 2023. But like, look at the overall balance of the years, guys. 2022 was a freaking crazy year. I've talked about that many times on the stream. A lot of big YouTubers touched on Star Citizen for the first time that year. And what else happened? I think May was just a really big time for the game. Yeah, 2022 May. I know Jack Frags was doing videos. Level Cap got more into it. And it just got a lot of buzz. So a lot of people joined. But yeah, I'm genuinely surprised that they're doing this year on this good on player numbers. It really, I guess, goes to show that if you're putting out constant content and something is relatively playable, people want to play it. a live services game success depends on the quality of the updates and how often people can push them, and CIG's pushing them 12 times a year this year, 11 times, 10 times a year. I don't think it's sustainable, but it's worked for them. And my whole point here is just that, like, they keep putting these little signs out there that what they're doing is definitely stressing the company. And so I'm super curious as to what happens over the next 6 months or so to see, are they going to settle into a more relaxed cadence where they're focusing more on feature pushes, or are they going to keep this one update a month stuff going? Whatever messaging they send to us in January or February of next year is going to be some of the most important messaging they've ever put out. Can you ship Squadron that year? Oh my God. Imagine if they come out in January and they're like, after a month of planning for Squadron 42 and Star Citizen development, we have discovered that Squadron 42 will release in March of 2027. Oof. What patches were 2022? I want to say 3.15 came out late. Hold on. 3.15 came out late 21 or 22? Late 21, yeah. So 2022 was 3.16 and then a lot of 3.17, which, to be quite honest, was not great news. We got 2016, or we got 3.16 in December. And then we got 3.17, I believe, in March of 2022. And then for April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and then January of the next year, February of the next year, and then March of the next year, we were on 3.17. It was insane. And yeah, dude, I don't know. As somebody who covers this and has covered this every day for years, it's kind of an anomaly the way that this project goes. I can't obviously speak towards other projects as much with depth, but I don't see any of your games doing this kind of stuff in terms of kickstarting and crowdfunding. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's different. It's hard to figure out what the hell's going on with Star Citizen. It's weird.
Unfortunately, they're on everything, and so they're always on it.
Yeah, I think it gets lost sometimes. We of the many.
Yeah,
things
that's
we
Space
changed
Tomato
this year,
guy
we've
was doing
shipped
videos too. Absolutely.
8 or 9 patches this year.
Yeah.
It depends on whether you count what happened in April as a patch or not. But we've shipped at least 8 patches this year, and in years past, from the 3.0 era on, it was 4 a year. If we were like some 1 or 2 years, we only hit 3 and whatever. And now we've done 8 this year. The velocity change has been tremendous. Tremendous. And it's helped, if I may, it's helped expose aspects of this. When I say this, I mean making all of this. It's helped expose aspects of this that we're pretty good at, and it's helped expose aspects of this that we still struggle with and still need to improve.
It's kind of like what I was just saying. A little bit. Shingley in chat said anecdotal, but I streamed my considerably large Discord frequently, and more people hop in, see the game much more fun and playable state, and decide, oh, you're having fun, let's try. People will hop into like the voice channel on Discord that you're streaming to? Or do you mean you stream like on Twitch and YouTube, but your audience is the Discord? That doesn't make a huge difference, but the idea of streaming into Discord and people joining is interesting to me, because I don't know of that happening very often. But yeah, Shingley brings up a good point, and I think that's the biggest point for everybody to remember. When one of my favorite statements is when somebody is like, they're not going to make more money when they release Star Citizen 1.0 or when they release Squadron 42, because all the people who know about it have already bought it. And I would say just about every step I take in life throughout the years of covering gaming and being in the gaming community, going around Reddit and all that kind of stuff, even covering other games, is that is so f***ing untrue. The amount of people who do not care about any games that are still in early access is vast. I've had that very hammered into my head covering Jump Space. The game just released into early access. It is a great freaking game. It has a very, very fun game loop. A lot of people are enjoying it. It's fairly quality too. It's not like it's glitching and falling apart and you're crashing or stuff like that. But there are still so many people who are like, this looks great. I'm very excited for this. I will pick it up at 1.0. And if you think that's not true of people regarding Star Citizen, man, I don't know. It's literally the biggest controversy in gaming. It's been in development for 12 years. The amount of people who have heard the name Star Citizen and completely disregarded it because they know it's a scam, it's never going to be finished, all that kind of jazz. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions possibly. So yeah, if they can get to the point where they actually are providing a good experience with a good game that is proven to allow people to have a good time, I think it's going to be more like what Xingli is experiencing. People are going to see, oh, it works, it plays, it's cool, I'll try it. Word of mouth is like the biggest thing in gaming now. Holy crap. You literally can't have a big game without word of mouth anymore. Look at the biggest games of this year. They're all indies. Expedition 33, Schedule 1? Schedule 99? I don't know. I don't remember what it was called. Or you can go back to last year with Helldivers. You can look at like some of the smaller games. Freaking Baldur's Gate 3. An amazing game that was in early access, but it didn't actually blow up until it got released and people got to play it as a released game. It's comical to not believe that CIG doesn't see dollar signs when they think of an actual finished release product. Just voice channels in Discord, just friend groups. Dude, that's huge. That's super strong. What frequently happens is people know what Star Citizen is, but when they see someone they know playing it, the dots connect and they go, yeah, okay, let's go. Dude, you're nailing it, Xingli. It's all word of mouth. It's all, oh, that's a scam or it's not real, until somebody familiarity helps. It's a big part of it. That's why like these big companies want to do influencer marketing and stuff like that. It also has, yeah, A-list actors and actresses. The star power advertising of Squadron 42 is going to be off the rails. Gumbo, you know a lot of people who follow the game but are just waiting for it to be a full gameplay experience. Me too! I've barely played the game up until about a year ago. 2 years ago. I'd say like 2023 was around when I started playing the game more often. Dex, you waited until this year to try Star Citizen after following it since 2017. What got you into it this year? Also, for anybody who's watching the stream, take things like that into account. Sometimes I make videos where I talk about like the trends that I'm seeing in gaming, and a lot of people will go into those videos and be like, that's anecdotal. Where are you seeing these trends? It's on this stream. It's people like Dex who are giving real anecdotal evidence in the dozens throughout a month, in the hundreds throughout a year, but like giving us insight into what real people think about a game, not what people are posting on Reddit or what folks are making videos about. It's I'm hoping that in hosting this channel over time, it's not just me who's getting information and insight out of talking about this stuff. It's also everybody who's coming to this stream. You guys can understand more about like how all of this is going. Not just in Star Citizen, other games too. There are other games out there, right? I think. Nay, you waited for Baldur's Gate 3 to release fully? Dude, I didn't even hear about Baldur's Gate 3 until it released fully. That's just the way it is. Mind's Eye had decent cinematics, but the gameplay was really lacking. And imagine if Mind's Eye was open development and people were able to tell them the gameplay sucked while they were working on it. I don't think that's how every game should be made, but it seems like that can make a big difference in a game's development. Satisfactory? I don't think it would have been as good a game as it is if it wasn't open during its development. Jump Space, it'll probably be a better game because they're working with the community. Just a lot of games like that. You had a friend telling you it was a scam and sending you videos that were 5 years old. You forced him to watch you stream in Discord and he bought the game. Damn. Yeah, I remember when I did a video for... This is a really funny one. This is like the first time I did a video that I felt was relatively clickbait. It was, let me see, Star Citizen, Space Tomato, Gameranks. I bet it'll make it come up. Gameranks put out a video. Gameranks put out a video that, I kid you not. Here, I'll play the beginning of it for you so you can hear kind of, this is just the level of commentary on Star Citizen you would get back when I was starting to make videos.
All these super powerful and impressive looking ships for players to buy, but the ship,
Like, you can look through the list too. That's on screen while he's saying this, yeah?
all these super powerful and impressive
The Polaris is definitely, it wasn't in game at the
looking
time. But the
ships for players to buy,
Terrapin, the
but the ships don't
Constellation, the
actually
Mustang
exist
Alpha,
yet,
the Hornet, the Titan,
and
the Buccaneer, the Cartual, the Starfarer, all of
theory,
these ships
never
exist,
exist.
right? The Valiant, the Merlin. But he's actively saying in the YouTube video that they don't exist and could never exist.
buy, but the ships don't actually exist yet and could, in theory, never exist. Never exist. Never exist.
And then we went out, we did this whole stream where we went out and we tried all those ships and proved that they exist. But like, that's how easy it can be sometimes to, and don't get me wrong. It's okay, there's plenty of stuff to criticize CIG for in Star Citizen. They do things wrong in certain situations. But the commentary around the game is just so outdated sometimes that you gotta put the actual proof in front of them. Either way, I think they've got a good thing going for them if they can continue this development, because when people see an actual working game, that does so much more than seeing a trailer or somebody making a statement or some interview. And I think that's what CIG is going for right now with these updates.
What you were saying just really hit home with that. We're in the process now of discussing adjusting the patch cadence for 2026. It's way too early to give any details on that. Nothing's decided.
Yeah.
But yes, this has been a pretty relentless pace. And there's a patch coming out in September. There'll be a patch coming out in October. There'll be a patch coming out in November, and then there'll be a patch coming out in December. So it's certainly a year unlike any other.
Now, one of the things we didn't discuss about for this, in order to reach the stabilities, there's also internal stability, right? That comes into play with this.
I'm not familiar with internal stability. I've never had it.
You guys are just like a general
Also,
gaming group.
This one is a bit more
I like that,
subjective
dude.
because we
That's
don't
pretty cool, Shingley.
specifically have a score for it. But if I go back to last year, right, the way we would develop the game, and I don't want to go too deep in the discussion about source control and streams and all that stuff, because that's just a rabbit hole. But in general, when we work, we have a mainstream where we work in, right? In the past, this was a melting pot of everything. So core technology, editor, toolings, audio teams, content teams, gameplay teams, art, everything, right, in one stream, right? And the fallout from that is that you go a bit faster because you're building things, you're improving the tools as you're improving the gameplay, as you're improving everything. But the reality is we also had major internal stability issues, which is, imagine that you're an environment artist, you show up at work, you make your little coffee, you pull the morning build, you're like, all right, I'm ready to work on my ASD mission today. It's going to be super cool. Editor crash, right? And now, oh yeah, the team's already on it. We're fixing it, but you just lost 2 hours. Right?
Yep.
And so we had major issues with this, right? And so when we started the year last year, when we did the show, just after the show, I think we went and finished this new branching strategy where all of the patches this year have come out of the same stream that we call SC patch. And
For reference, that's kind of what happened with 317. Everything after 316 was on that same stream. That's why it ended up being so stable.
this patch receives almost no technology update.
Yep.
It's basically us saying we can do this content with no new engine tech, no editor update, no tooling update, nothing. Right now, that's not to say we're not touching the engine. We've fixed bugs, we've improved stability, but we bring these things, embedded green light, full verification, tooling check before they go in. And so it's really about moving all these checks beforehand so that we don't destabilize the content teams who are they're under the gun all the time to produce the stuff that they have to, and we don't want to slow them down. And so that's another reason for why the stability is better. It's because we're also not introducing massively breaking changes in the engine that we didn't need to debug at patch time, right? And so that's been a big helper on stability at the cost of features, right? That was the whole point of the year, really, so far.
And now we're changing some of that with tech preview. I want to hit one more thing before we go into tech preview and stuff. Features are going to begin. Yes, Virginia, it's true. Features are going to begin appearing again in I won't say the word soon, but they're coming. Before I get to tech preview, because that was a really good transition into tech preview, but I want to touch on one more thing. You mentioned the rise in session length.
Yep.
So this is one of those metrics that we've talked a lot about. We're 40 minutes in.
Yeah, the sacrifice they've taken to get here is kind of what he keeps bringing up, is the features. And it will be interesting to see if they can return to a heavy dose of feature development without returning to also the instability of Star Citizen when they were focusing on features. I do think the EPTU will help with that, the experimental test preview, whatever you want to call it. But we do need to see that using more effectively than we have throughout the year. The Vulkan stuff is good. We need to see it in engineering. We need to see stuff like FPS scanning go in there, crafting based building. Like, that should be a consistent thing. And I think people are still waiting to get more of their confidence that the EPTU can keep the game both stable and working on features while we continue to play this more playable version they've made this year.
You've mentioned a lot of things that have probably never been said on a single development show before.
What's up, Todd?
Podcast, or whatever the heck you want to call this. We don't have to talk about session length. The amount of people who are logging in. You hear about concurrency. Steam has concurrency numbers and stuff, but session length is a super important metric for stability and for enjoyment of the product and stuff. Just talk to me about session length, how it's determined, other than just, hey, that's how long the person's in there, why it's important, and what's happened to that over the last 9 months.
Well, so, let's say the session length is calculated by you joining a game server.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Spicy SCO7 says 40 minutes in, said virtually nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, I stopped the whole show.
Sure.
Stop the whole show for that. Continue, Benoit.
I was saying the session length is calculated when you connect a game shard, right? So sitting on the main menu doesn't count, right? It's really when you're actually actively connected to a game server, and obviously it ends when you disconnect. So that sounds like a simple metric, and it kind of is, but it's very important because it gives you an idea of, like, you can have very high concurrency and a very short session length, and that means that's a terrible patch. It means people are going in, let's talk about the patch we should not talk about, when you would get in game, if you could get in game, and then can't get out of bed, Alt F4, end of session, super high concurrency but very low session length. And so the session length is a bit of an indicator of the quality of the game, but also of the desire of the player to keep playing the game. And so the longer the session length, it typically means that, hey, the content's being engaged with, players are playing the game, blah blah blah. Now, I'm sure, some people go out in deep space and they mine, and that's it. And they can mine 4 hours and they pull the average up. Other players, go PvP for a couple minutes, and then they exit, and then, they drive the average down. But overall, the session length is like it's always a metric that we look at as a secondary metric to look at the quality of this. And so the session length has more than doubled since the 3.x era of the game, easily, right? And obviously, in the case of server recovery, your session continues, and so that helps, quite a bit, because before it would cut the session in half. So there's other factors that contribute to it, but that's why it's an important one.
Okay, so now I want to talk about tech preview. So we used tech preview when we launched 4.0. Technically, 4.0 didn't launch until end of January this year. That's when it went to live. It was on tech preview at the end of last year. And we made these statements that we were going to use tech preview in order to bring these new things in and maintain the stability of live. It took 8 months. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we did a tech preview between January and late August, early September. Yep. And now we're using them for the Vulkan stuff and the graphic stuff. Talk to me about tech preview, why we're doing it, how it's working, and let's just start there. I'll follow up when you're done.
Yeah. So, let's start with we didn't have tech previews in, let's say, April of last year, right? We started this idea of having tech previews last year, right? So it's a new kind of tool that we have. And obviously, we use tech previews in the server meshing lead up, to validate key assumptions, to actually isolate the testing. If you remember, when we did the major technical previews on the 3x branch for server meshing, it was taking the actual previous build with server meshing technology. So uninfluenced by new code, uninfluenced by the current patch, something we know is kind of in a stable range that we can use to test the technology alone, right? It's also a way to de-risk, just, again, bringing that in the stream and then going Cortez maneuver. Now we're stuck with it. We're moving forward, but, and so the tech preview has been invaluable for that. And especially for the server meshing project, that's been a super important tool, because we just don't have always the ability to replicate what players are going to do. And to be honest, even with bots and virtual, players and whatever, it's never the same then. 4,000 players filling ships with hot dogs.
And right now, we're
Anon, thanks for gifting out that sub over to Tavex.
So this tech preview that we're bringing in is more than that, actually, like behind the scenes, right? This is literally, I told you about SC Patch. So all the patches this year have been coming from SC Patch. The tech preview contains all changes that we've brought to our mainstream. This is where engine development happens. This is also where we bring back some technology from Squadron 42 back into Star Citizen. And we are moving all of this together up to SC Patch. So this will now become, when we're happy with all the testing that we got through on this, and it checks all the green lights, this will become the new baseline from which we build patches. And so right now, this includes, about 8 to 9 months of graphics changes, right, which have not seen the public yet. And so a lot of Vulcan changes, obviously, to the great pleasure of our great Ali Brown, who really wants us to finalize this merge so that we can bring this into players. And there's some great stuff in there. So a lot of Vulcan optimization.
Dude, to get an idea of how much Ali Brown probably wants this to be just done, check this out.
Thank you very much.
12 Vulcan Star Citizen. You look up this video. CitizenCon 2021, folks. 4 freaking years ago. This guy was sitting on camera telling us where he wanted to go with the Vulcan API and the new graphics updates. 4 years ago.
So after Gen 12, I just briefly wanted to touch on what comes next for the graphics team. So a lot of Gen 12 has been focused on CPU performance. So after Gen 12, we really want to start looking at the GPU performance. The first few things we'd look at here were things that wouldn't change the visuals, just improve the frame rate. Things like DLSS, FSR, async compute, and variable rate shading. After we've improved this GPU performance, we want to start looking at some of the more exciting visual features. So then there is also mesh shaders and primitive shaders, which is technology we can use to generate procedural geometry. And this type of thing could be really exciting for things like the planets or asteroid fields where procedural geometry is critical. And then there's the big one, ray tracing. We're very excited to get onto ray tracing, especially to use it for lighting, such as global illumination, but also reflections and shadow quality. There's a lot of exciting areas for us to look into. And
They were very excited 4 years ago, man. Can you imagine how much they want this push to just go into the game so they can move on to the important stuff? This was like one of the most dry talks I've ever watched. It's insightful and it is informing, and it explains the whole idea of how rendering technology is going to work in Star Citizen. Oh my God, but I can't imagine having worked on this for all this time and you're still like, please just put it in the game. Just make it work.
Vulcan changes, but also in a way for us to test all of these changes that we've been doing to the core engine rendering outside of the lab, because we have a graphics lab internally that we test on, but it never, there's never anything like shipping it to players and having all the different kinds of hardwares and configs and settings and driver versions that we need. And so the majority of the stuff in this tech preview is player facing, but there's a ton of back-end tooling that comes with that. A major update to the editor with some new, material edition systems and light group systems that are, in dire need of coming in, and a major upgrade to our scripting system that power missions,
Right.
which the mission teams are, Elliot and his team are like, when is it going to be
dying
done?
for that. Yeah, no.
Yes.
That's. I'm glad you brought that up because I'd actually forgotten that. That underneath that, it looks like it's just for the graphics, everything. But yes, no, the mission, we call it Mission 2.0. We call it a couple different things internally, but they are chomping at you already said that. I'm reusing the same. Sorry, I saw a comment from Salty and Mike that said, talk about session girth. And I laughed and wasn't listening to anything you were saying for like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Because
cool.
it's a good joke.
It's a good joke.
Session
It was a
girth,
good
dude.
joke.
Now, to be clear, on the mission tooling there, right, this is
Also, talk about the session refactory period.
part of Mission 2.0. It's a prerequisite, but it's not the Mission 2.0 system. That's a much larger endeavor that we're still on. But this time it's tooling, right? So if some players are tech savvy here, it's basically a visual scripting system that we're upgrading massively, which was, I think we've demoed this years ago at this point, but it's called the Subsumption at the time, and it's now called StarScript. And so the StarScript system is basically taking the tooling that the teams are using now and making it much more reliable, robust with syntax checking, error checking, validation, auto layout, stuff like that the teams really need to build more quality missions.
I'm sorry, let me get this straight. You took a new feature set and you took the base word for it and then added star in front of it and called it that?
No, we renamed Subsumption, which was the original name, and then we put star in front of it. Yeah, exactly.
Star Assumption.
That's right.
Dude,
we have a
I
theme.
honestly, I can't tell. I can't tell if they're doing it. I can't tell if they're doing it ironically or not. I'm serious, guys. I talked to one of them, And the way that they talked about the whole adding star thing made it sound like it was tongue-in-cheek. But not a single time have they introduced any of these things and been like, ha ha ha, we're naming this Star. They just like very seriously announced that these things are called StarScript and Starchitect and Star Audio, Star Me. I keep thinking that their character creator should be called Star Me. I'm just a big Pokemon stan.
All right, we're going with it. I'm rolling with it.
As long as
Yeah,
you're willing
originally
to
it
get
seemed
called
like a
out by me
joke.
every time you do it.
But now-
This tech preview is obviously important. It'll be in tech preview for as long as it needs to be in order to.
It is funny as a
shore
joke.
up and then be
I'm just gonna
integrated and become the new
imagine
base
it's
from
still a
which we
joke.
Create our patches from. What is the next tech preview? Go ahead, say it.
Well, so what's behind this, right? This enables us to bring in, I'm going to go back to streaming just to build the excitement. No, I'm joking. So off of our main technology stream is another feature that's been built there that needs all of this to work. And that's the engineering gameplay tech preview. That's right behind it. So the moment we can bring in the base tech preview changes, then we'll be able to do to run the next testing on engineering gameplay straight off of that patch. So that's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, so I want to be real clear with that. This is the next set of tech previews. This is I want to go ahead and say, and I'm going to go ahead and say it so that if people get angry at me and not you. Right now we're using tech preview to test Vulkan and these and all these graphical stuff and all these mission changes and everything underneath and stuff like this. When this is done and get fully integrated, go to live and whatnot, the next thing is engineering. We desperately, I'm going to use the word desperately. We desperately want this tech preview with engineering out before the end of the year. Now,
Jared, you don't know the definition of desperate. We will literally shitpost on Reddit, all right? That's how intense it is now. You can't hold us from engineering any longer. Can I show you guys the introduction to this? Because it's really not hard to find. Star Citizen Interface Showcase. I know the literal Jaredified name for the Inside Star Citizen episode because I've looked this thing up so much. Interface Showcase. And I'm on the wrong YouTube channel, so I'm getting ads. For the dead Destiny. Look at this. This is engineering.
Have a fuel tank, a battery.
If you're part of this channel, if you've been around here, if you've been hanging out,
Sabotaged automatically.
then you've probably seen this more times than you wish. You probably also know the name of this episode at this point. But this was the original engineering showcase. This was the first time we ever saw the work they were doing on this. And my friends, this was October of 2020. We've been watching engineering in development in different ways for 5 years. We are all desperate. Although I'll take the back seat and probably say that the people who are working on it likely want it to be out more than we do.
use the word desperately. We desperately want this tech preview with engineering out before the end of the year. Now, this is the middle of September. It's still October, November, December. That's still a lot of time. It's not any time when anybody would say soon. And that's no guarantee that we're even going to hit it. We've all been here. Somebody was joking, hey, drink it next time Jared says how long he's been here. Well, we've all been here. Lots of us. I've recognized some of these names for the whole time I've been here. We've all been here long enough to know that me saying it's our intention to get this before the end of the year is not the same as saying it will come before the end of the year. Just being honest with you here, but it is everybody's desperate intention to get this thing into tech preview at the end of the year. We want it, we need it, we're tired. We did.
And I know I'm talking a lot. All right, I'm pausing a lot in this episode. That's why we're gonna do this in parts. But I'm putting out a video this week, and I just kind of want to get ahead of it because I know some people are gonna find problems with it. In this video, I throw doubt on the 2027, 2028 dates for Star Citizen. I throw heavy doubt on it. I basically say there's no chance. And part of that is the feature development, the amount of features that we still need in this game to not just work, but also interweave with the other features, to interface with the game overall, is hefty. And to look at the way that things are going right now with engineering, I think could give us some insight into that. If you go to the July monthly report, you'll see some talk about engineering and the progress that they're making on it. And it's good talk. It's definitely stuff that got us excited, but the specific words they use, I'll read it for you. July saw engineering gameplay enter tech preview preparation, with the devs moving the code into a new staging system. Now, that one sentence means that at this point, the ePTU is starting to be considered. They're actually going to deliver us the features of engineering to test in the tech preview, not in live, but in this tech preview they're talking about. And the fact that they are doing that preparation in July, meanwhile, though, in September, Jared is still saying this.
As saying it will come before the end of the year. Just being honest with you here. But it is everybody's desperate intention to get this thing into tech preview at the end of the year. We want it.
That means I hate extrapolating, and nothing is ever the same. Every situation is different. But that would be a 5-month window of preparing for the tech preview, right? Not even preparing for the live game, preparing for the tech preview to maybe make it in. Now, engineering's a really big system, one of the biggest in the game. It connects to a lot of stuff. It touches a lot of stuff. So this could be a unique situation. But if we look at the way that engineering is moving its way into tech preview and how long it's taking, then we extrapolate that out to all the other features: base building, crafting, the economic simulation, Maelstrom, refining gameplay, whatever exploration gameplay ends up being. Yeah, I know. Data hauling, passenger transport. The things that are on the roadmap for 1.0, I actually think passenger transport, yeah, it's on there. All of those things also need to go into the tech preview. So I'm like, next year is going to be really important for them to set expectations for what their actual pace is in getting these features into the game. Because if we're going off of 2025, which is all about playability, it's not about features. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt there. But if we go off of this 5 months to get from tech preview prep to tech preview, and then however long to get from tech preview to live, makes me feel like 2028 sounds a little bit ambitious for the whole game. We'll see. Again, they're focusing on playability this year, so it might change. But I want, like, that's the caveat. I want to be out there when people experience the video I'm putting out this week, which is like kind of throwing some cold water on that expectation.
We need it. We're tired. We did 5-6 stories in engineering. I did like 2 or 3 CitizenCons with engineering. Like, it's time. 300, kick that mother out on the tech preview, please.
Hell yeah.
So we're trying. But
Here.
Just want to make sure that everybody's super clear on what that means.
Hey, well, on this, I got a little segue for you.
All right.
So there's one thing that kind of proves the improvements, right, on the live service is that there's a lot less players on PTU, and there's a lot less players on tech previews than before, which is a good thing, right? That means players want to play the real game, and I'm really happy about that. But it does mean if you want to help, join those tech previews, right? The more people we get, even if it's for a short period of time, it's really helpful because we get a more larger set of people that can try it out, and that gives us more data.
Yeah, I want to talk about something. I got to show you sparked something that's actually a bugaboo for me, and I got a platform and I'm going to use it. So we did this change. We did this change this year. We went to what will be 10 or 11 patches throughout the entire year. This almost monthly cadence of live stuff. So you've got the live stuff, a new live thing going every month. People are like, let's put something new in the game. We've had something new every month. We've had a PTU every month that runs alongside it. Now we've got tech preview. This pace that we're at this year has forced us to split our audience and stuff like this. It's like, well, do you want to be playing the live game, or would you rather be playing the PTU version, or now with tech preview, would you rather be playing tech preview? And the reality is, we need everybody everywhere. The live version is the version of the game that we're making. That's the version we want. We want everybody to experience it. But we also need them for testing, so we want them to be in PTU. We also need them for the specialized testing, so we want them to be in tech preview. And it seems, and this is one of the reasons why I talked earlier that we're reevaluating the 2026 release schedule for this reason. We've created a situation where we want our players in too many places at once, if I'm allowed to speak honestly, and I'll find out when I check my team's messages afterwards. It's a thing that needs addressing, so and it's hard. It's hard. I don't know. Short of altering the schedule, which we're talking about, what more can we do to encourage people to participate in PTU and tech preview, other than us sitting here on the show and begging them? Is there something?
Yeah, we've got some ideas. To be honest, like, we're toying with a few ideas, like incentivization programs or things like that. But this is a slippery slope. It's a very slippery slope. And I kind of like the kind of volunteer approach for this.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, we do have an issue where you know, the we're testing this and we have a, you know, the next patch already cooking, and so it's like it's always rolling. I mean, at the same
Yeah.
time, it's a testament to our ops team
Yeah.
that I want to salute one more time, because these guys are always on the they're always on the clock. You know, there's always a build going out, and so these guys are kicking ass. But
It's hard because we certainly don't want everybody playing nothing but PTU. Second a patch goes out there, the next week there's another PTU. So
Yeah,
it's like,
that's the
only
problem.
play the worst, most broken version of Star Citizen. But we need your help testing it. But it's this weird catch-22 that I don't know that we have a real great answer for, other than adjusting the schedule, which we're looking at.
Honestly, it's interesting that they didn't mention this increased focus on testing, this group testing stuff that we've been looking at. In fact, there's a post here by Yogi on it. It's interesting they didn't mention this here, because it's kind of the answer to that, right? They need testing, but they can't rely on the PTU in terms of wide testing. They need focus testing on certain gameplay. Just realized you make a cute Geordie LaForge. I honestly, I'm not big on the old Star Trek, but I think I could pull it off. It's got that Cyclops look to him. What is the line? It's like the only line I know from. I never lie when I've got sand in my boots, Commodore. That is my dad. My dad watched some Star Trek, so I get it every once in a while. What is CIG's biggest letdown that affected you the most? Oh, this is going to be hella controversial. Quantum. Now, they've rebranded it to StarSim, and they say they're still working on it. But yeah, I would say the biggest letdown I've had in CIG and Star Citizen so far is largely based around Tony Z. Yeah, that stuff really hurts me. Because of all the things that have attracted me to Star Citizen, the systemic stuff was the most exciting. You know, I played Shadow of Mordor, and like most people who played Shadow of Mordor, the Nemesis system was one of the coolest things in all of gaming. The ability to feel like you had like something personal with the other people in the game, that they were attacking you. That was gold, man. That was great stuff. And I don't think, I genuinely, I don't know if we're going to get that. I don't know if that will be a thing in this game anymore after Quantum has seemingly just faded away. But yeah, the idea of like NPCs using the same services and racking hell, I have a video about that that's available to supporters. If you guys have got like a Twitch sub or a YouTube membership or whatever, you can go watch that video right now. It's all about why bounty hunting has been delayed by the economy. But the reality of it is that a lot of things have been delayed by the economy, because the economy was based on a system that has been talked about to no end, but seemingly has not been built or implemented. And now that Tony Z is not at CIG anymore, and they are purposefully choosing to stay away from talking about that system, it very well might still be planned for the game, but I don't know. And so perceived disappointments, that definitely, I think that tops my list right now. It's such a big part of Star Citizen. The idea that you don't have to depend on players for all that stuff to happen, that 90% of what's going on in the game is the game, and you're very rarely going to run into players if you don't want it to be that way, that was part of the original pitch when there was all instances. That was part of the midterm pitch when Quantum was going to handle it. And now I don't know if that's part of this late pitch for Star Citizen 1.0. I hope it is, but I think that's a big part of the game that they're choosing not to talk about too much. And maybe they will at CitizenCon this year. God, maybe we will. That would be cool. Anyways, this talk from Yogi, he was talking about the new testing team, where somebody asked, what is the difference between this new testing team from Evocati testers? He said, it's pretty different from Evocati. Think of it more like the playtest labs other studios run. The idea isn't open feedback like we usually do on Spectrum threads. Spectrum is great for getting a feel for overall community sentiment, but when it comes to more divisive features and let's say the somewhat challenging dynamic of public internet discourse, the old PID, we can't always rely on it with full confidence. That's where this new testing team comes in. The goal is to make sure that the feedback is both solid and protected from bias and social engineering so we can ultimately make better design decisions. SGGT runs narrow, targeted gameplay tests with carefully selected groups of players. These groups he's literally telling the people on Spectrum, y'all do like some crazy social engineering to to try and get people on your side. These groups can be very specific, such as PvP pirates, lone PvE pilots, or cargo haulers, or space moms and dads. Because we define the groups, their composition and sizes, we can easily run A/B test comparisons or compare results between different playstyles. E.g., we can test with different time players how effective our tutorials are, or check if a change on the weapon systems is accepted by both PvE and PvP pilots, coupled with an NDA that gives us a much higher confidence in the feedback, specifically for divisive features. I think this works if they have somebody whose sole job, or at least one of their sole responsibilities, is to pick people for this testing phase. Because he makes a really good point. They could both, like we talked about this last week, they could pick all the people who are best at a certain gameplay and tell them, okay, we want to have you come in to test this gameplay to make sure it works right. But he's also insinuating here that they could pick the most casual of people. They could find the people who like maybe spend a lot of time in game, but don't actually take a lot of missions. And then they could ask them to do the focus testing. And that kind of still gets them really good feedback without having wade through hundreds of comments on a Spectrum thread. So I can see how it works if you control all the groups. He said a test only usually runs for a few days. Once it's done, access gets revoked, surveys, and then maybe a new batch of players comes in. There won't be a priority system or application process because the groups are defined by the test itself. So all in all, it's really a very different type of testing compared to Evocati. SGGT and Evocati players might overlap at times, but it is entirely dependent on the test itself. Hope that clears up the difference. Honestly, I thought this was going to be a lot worse of a message because I saw people reacting to Yogi saying like, oh, Yogi's at it again, kind of getting on Spectrum and saying something, but this seems pretty straightforward. They just want to focus group test some stuff. And I don't know, I guess you could just delete all this text and just replace it with somebody saying, we're only going to pick streamers. It's the streamers that will test it. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that I have not been contacted for any of that stuff. Which technically I'm not breaking an NDA because I haven't been asked about it. So at least as far as being a streamer or YouTuber goes, I have not in any way been contacted for that stuff. I also don't think I would be a good person to ask for it. Anyways, I don't get to play the game as much as other people. But yeah, that's kind of what he's talking about here. Just getting different ways to test the stuff.
I don't know that we have a real great answer for other than adjusting the schedule, which we're looking at next year. And then it gets exasperated when we do timed events like Race for Stanton or whatnot, when it's like, okay, well, if you want these rewards that are only available during this period of time, then you have to be in live in order to get them. But then it's like, well, we got a PTU over here. Wouldn't you like to be in a PTU over here? It's like, well, no, I want to get the rewards. They're over there. And, you know, we extended Race for Stanton. That helped with that a little bit. But it's just that there's no obvious answer to this. I'm pontificating on one of the interesting challenges of our development model that exists that I don't think anybody really ever talks about publicly. And today we decided we were going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. So
we're doing it live.
We're doing it live. It's one of those things we still need to figure out and address. BioNukes had a question. Hey, BioNukes, talk about one of those people that's been here as long as I have. It was a while back. I saved it, BioNukes. Why not have a set time for the servers to, in the back end, to just reset every day? Why not just flip the switch every day, turn it off and turn it on again every day?
Well, so wait, that's one thing I forgot to put on the list of things we've changed this year, right? Which is that we take maintenance windows. We used to never do that. Now, why not do this every day, right? The issue that you get is that it's not just resetting the server. So, you know, rebooting the servers, reloading the game shard from persistence and continuing, you're going to get right back in the same situation. So let's imagine, we're going to talk about cleanup and density a bit later, but let's go back to the 3.x days where we persist all the data in the shard and we have deep intersections. So a ship entered another ship, it's an intersection, is costing on the server. The server FPS is now shit, super low physics threads, you know, using all the resources. And then you're like, okay, cool, let's do a daily reset, right? It's going to fix that, right? So you go through it, you reboot it. Cool. Now server reloads from persistence, and those ships are still intersecting, and so you're right back where you were. So if you would look at the graphs and you see FPS super low, 0 during the reset, 30, it's 5, instantly. And so what we've done in the past for this is now we have way more systems to deal with like this to reclaim performance, right, for these cases. So first of all, we detect them, but also we do emit fresh shards periodically. So we kind of decide when it happens. But when we do massive maintenances, weekly maintenances, we don't take every week, but we do it when we have to make configuration changes or things like that. We'll take a downtime, and we're probably going to emit new shards or run the repair on some of those shards, and then that will help. So we kind of do that. We just don't do it systematically, because the reality is that's not completely how it works. For the backend persistence side of this, it's not something that we can solve easily, because the conditions are too great. You need the shard to be live to solve these things, to be able to do it.
What about a traditional, like, every Tuesday scheduled maintenance period, like every Tuesday at 4 a.m. Eastern time, whatever, things go down for 2 hours and come back?
We're going towards that now, like where we basically right now you can almost consider that every Tuesday, we try to do a maintenance. Typically early in the morning UK time is a good time.
I feel like Monday maintenance makes a lot of sense.
That's where the least players are playing typically. But that said, we don't take it every week, because we don't always have to do it, and so sometimes it's not very necessary. But I'm an advocate to always take it, so that sometimes we use it to accelerate hotfixes. So in case you haven't noticed, we do hotfixes all the time, right? So we have this new deployment systems now, and we're able to roll hotfixes way faster. But when we roll a game server hotfix, it's going to take time to, what's the word that Ahmed uses? Percolate. It's going to take a while before it percolates, right?
Percolate.
Yeah, and so sometimes you can have a game shard that has 10 servers, 2 of them have the hotfix, the others don't have it. So depending on where you're at in the shard, you have the fix or not, and it takes a while before all the game servers actually run into it. Now, obviously, if it's an unstable build, it's going to be much faster, because then server crash, back new instance with the new build. But these maintenance windows give us the opportunity to also synchronize that with a client hotfix when it's necessary, and so we can take everything down, patch the client, patch to all the game servers in one go, emit fresh shards if we have to, and then start again. And so that's why typically there's big changes that can come about in maintenances, and we want to use them more. Yeah, definitely.
I just like Monday maintenance because they both start with M.
First hour. And
that was part one. Organizational changes.
That was part one. Organizational changes. Let's take an interlude here. I'll ask you just a side question here. Let you get a drink or whatnot. With our last patch, what was the last patch? The August patch. 4.3. There was a big curiosity with the Wolf. On PTU, right before we crossed the finish line to release that, we discovered something that didn't show up in any testing and whatnot. Walk me through what happened with the Wolf.
That's a beautiful one. That was fun. So yeah, like you mentioned, we're walking up to 4.3. We're at the point where pretty much everything has been validated and tested, and there's something with the Wolf that we're going to try to do more in the future, is that we try to respect what we call the art of surprise. Is that typically beforehand we used to put everything in the patch, go. Now for certain things, we want to try to respect some level of surprise. We find that it's cooler for you guys when you discover things when it goes live, and not necessarily on PTU 2 weeks before, right? And so we're trying
to shows every week.
Or it shows every week, exactly, right? So and so the Wolf is part of that. And so the Wolf was going on PTU for validation, because it was part of 4.3 release at the very last minute, right? So like I think 24 hours before, just to make sure everything's fine. Well, it turns out everything was not fine.
This is another anecdote for how fast they're trying to move between updates this year.
We look at the reports. There was one crash that we had to solve, which was solved rapidly. But then we looked at some very curious reports, and so players would basically report it. I forget the IC exactly, but something like, I landed with my Wolf, exited the ship, and then was walking around. Then my friend took my Wolf and flew away, and then the world despawned around me. So initially it sounds like a fluke report, but then a bunch of people reproduced it and was like, I have this. And so like, what is going on? And so typically then that's where our player relations team goes like, something's fishy going on here. So we started to look into it. And so we assembled a quick crew to check this out and now this is kind of skeleton crew, because we're moving to release. So typically it's very late here in the I'm in the UK right now, so it's very late here in the UK. US teams, it's night for them, so just get this crew on together, start looking at this issue. And so basically the issue that we're seeing is that sometimes when a bug starts with sometimes, it's going to be a fun one. So sometimes when you exit the Wolf, you desync between the client and the server. And what actually happened is if you looked at so we have this tool we call the server renderer, which allows us to basically view what the server sees, right? And so think of it like a side camera that we have when we have access to the game server, and then our game client, and you can see what the server sees. Right? And so you'd see my character get out of the wolf, with that super nice animation, exit, and he jumps at the end.
Yep.
Jumps off the ship. Wow, it's like super cool. And then I'm walking around on my client, everything's fine. Game server, I'm literally in EVA animation floating over the planet. And the thing is, I can't exit this condition, right? No matter what I'll do on my client now, the server will always see me attached to the ship in EVA anim. So we're like, okay, what's going on, right? Now we start looking at this. So at this point, John Crew and I are, losing our minds trying to get a proper reproduction. But then we realized, we put new animations for this ship. So the Wolf was one of the new ships that have enter-exit animations, right, that are brand new, like just captured, import in the game, all that stuff. We don't do this all the time. And putting animations in the game is not just put the anim in. It's like it's timing. There's events to link them. There's linking them to the actor system, how they get triggered. Inserting them into ship pipeline, stuff like that. And so we start debugging this. First step was, they probably forgot to put some of the seed events on it. So we do a first patch, we try it out. Now the QA guys come back like, no, still happens. So like, okay, now I think if the timing is wrong on these events, so let's change that. No, I think we went through like 7 or 8 iterations of fixes to try to figure out what was actually happening about that exact animation and why the ship system was disconnecting it. We went into full debugging on the actor. So the actor is your character and all the states it can go through. And we could just see the two differ, right? But it made no sense. Why is one working and the other working? So at this point, we're kind of running out of ideas. And so that's when I used the button. I called the Bug Smasher himself, Mark Aben, on the show. And so Mark came in and was as flabbergasted as we were about what the hell is causing this. And then so we went into a bit more debugging sessions. At this point, we're deep engine side physics and collisions to try to figure out what's going on. And then in the end, Mark just goes within, in the typical Bug Smasher fashion, just goes into what about gravity? And so we take a look at how the ships have physics grids. These grids have sizes and mesh sizes, and the animations is based on the geometry. And there was no gravity in the ship, 0, 0, 0, right? And so basically it was a combination of the physics grid, the fact that the actor on the server runs at a lesser resolution. So your client, when you're in game, is at full resolution. The server doesn't run at full resolution when he's simulating your character. And so combination of this would make the server would actually reach the EVA state. So now you're floating in EVA, right? But with no gravity and no other movement, it will never solve itself. And he's also overlapping over the grid, which is too big. And so that was a bit of a combination of like blunders, from geometry to wrong physics grid to out of no gravity, and it made the bug also not 100%. It wasn't like I exit the ship and it happens. It would need to happen like it took about 10 to 15 times you would get it one time. And so, all right, so we fixed the bug. We get this in there. Internal QA validates it, and then to be able to properly validate it, as you know, we need players. And so that's where we mobilized you guys on PTU to come and try this out. And this was one of the best moments I've had testing in this game, where roughly 100 people showed up with wolves at Boondoggle on Hurston, and then 200 people are entering and exiting the wolf, right, to see if they get detached from the animation. It was a fantastic moment. And so that was a fun one to troubleshoot.
And that was your free audio only episode of Bug Smashers.
And they've had a couple other things. They've had a couple other things throughout this year where a ship has come in and it's been missing a little bit of polish or a little something that needs to be added to it. I think the wolf still has physicalized interactable components that it needs added. But those, I think, are some of the other little signs of how fast that they're moving, that the ships come out and they're not even fully ready.
I want to shout out Dennis Daniel, who's in chat right now.
What's up, Dennis?
Hi, Dennis. It's your man.
My man.
All right. Part 1, year of playability, our little Bug Smashers interlude. Folks watching, we've got another hour or 2 left. So we're going to be here for a bit. In case you're like, why would they talk about that? Whatever. We're getting there. Part 2. Server meshing. Yeah.
I kind of do want to end our part 1 here. God, there's still so much left in this video. So like whatever the follow-up would be is going to have to be so long. But this was more just kind of a look at like playability. What are they doing to try and make it more playable? Obviously, we had plenty of commentary to go with that. This video is getting plenty long though, so I won't continue to record on that one. But Hello? Yeah. We'll finish this one up here. Hope you guys got something out of that. Give me 1 second. Some weird noise coming from my house. I'll be right back.
Past, present, future, static, dynamic, 3D. Benoit, I'm just gonna go get a Coke and a Cinnabon. I'll be back. Now, talk to me about server meshing, man.
Well, so obviously we launched server meshing end of last year, and we've been running a server mesh environment for now 7 months, 8 months, right? 9 months. We're not month 9 already. And so that's the static server mesh. And so that means we have territories, just a quick recap for everybody. And so that means that we have a configuration for these territories, and we can pick different top-level object containers from the tree of the universe. And then we basically...
Sorry. There's an Amazon truck outside of our house, and I guess the sound it makes when it's backing up is really weird and strange. That was a little bit creepy. All right, yeah, so that's the look at what they were talking about in terms of playability and kind of what's been going on this year to try and make things more playable. Like I said, we're not going to go through this whole video right now because it's super freaking long, but can always chat a little bit more about what was talked about here. I see a question about CitizenCon. We could talk about that. And just randomly, the news that's going on. The wolf also still has that ugly fin. Mm-hmm. That's the other problem that they missed. Mr. Ferrister, it's good to see you in chat, dude. How are you doing? How was your weekend? I gotta contact you about potentially talking this week. Thought you're about to be swatted. That would be crazy. No. Don't want anybody knowing our address. Make a new one. Wait, make a new what? Ship? Video? Stream? Oh, hey, Superfly Ninja. Thank you for the Prime sub on Twitch. I'm sorry I missed you there. I appreciate your support though, dude. And it looks like somebody gifted out a sub to a Lesrith. Whoever is anonymous, you've been gifting out a lot of subs today. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's almost Togam energy. You just finished The Expanse. Any recommends for another sci-fi series? You talking about books or TV show? Foundation is pretty good, TV-wise. So is For All Mankind, I believe it's called. Apple series. Any other space series? I heard the new Star Trek's pretty good. There's books? Yeah, there are books, dude. The Expanse books are so good. That's where it started. There's actually more book stuff to explore than TV show stuff. Oh yeah, Three Body Problem's an interesting one. Three Body Problem, was it good? I never read the book, so I can't compare to that. The series itself was entertaining. It was very cool to look at and watch. It didn't quite grip me as much as I had hoped. Like, it's not something that I haven't gone back to watch it a second time yet, even though I thought I would. But yeah, the Expanse books are very, very good. I would give them a go if you haven't gotten to read them. So Star Sim is dead? No. No, Star Sim is not dead. But we don't know what it is anymore. We're disconnected enough from the quantum travel talks, or the quantum discussions. And I think that's part of why they've done it. They just have decided, quite obviously, to not talk about the quantum simulation. Likely because they knew they'd have to move away from it. The last time we got an update on it was here. This is like 2020. Yeah, this is May 2021. So Star Sim still exists. You find it on the roadmap here. Back-end systems and tools, simulating the state of the universe, economy, and dynamically responding to player actions. But we don't know what it's going to include. So, uncertainty. For All Mankind is awful? Oh. You like it, and you hope they start including buoyancy in Star Citizen so we can swim around a little bit. Scuba instructor. Oh, that's cool. Always wanted to do some scubaing. How long have you been doing that? Oh yeah, they did give a little bit of an update on Spectrum. They mentioned that they weren't going to work on it until server meshing was in a better place, right? To allow for this kind of stuff to actually matter, a large enough economy to matter. But even then, I don't think they really talked about the simulative side. I think they just mentioned that they were still working on it, which is good. But more specifics would be nice. Oh, Andor is great too. Yeah, Andor is really good sci-fi television. It focuses less on the sci-fi part and more on the sort of political side of the story, but it is really good. Oh, I can't actually see links posted in chat. But I remember your reference. Thank you for reminding me of that. Vivi Jr. with the Prime sub. 54 freaking months, dude. Holy crap, thank you. Much love to you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Hope you've been enjoying the stream. You're fed up with server meshing at this point. It's all they ever tell us. We must have server meshing. Server meshing will solve everything. Just wait until server meshing is in. Rage. You know, and now we got server meshing. What now? "100 months will be momentous." I am honestly floored that you're even considering 100 months. Thank you. I'm glad you've been enjoying these streams. Hopefully we can get an update on it sometime soon. I feel like that is a super important feature for the type of PvE experience they want, especially for solo players. You're talking about the simulation. Yeah, I agree. More NPC activities. Instancing and Star Sim are probably two really big things that PvE focused players want to hear about. 6 years, but now landlocked. Not easy to be a scuba instructor when landlocked. Hopefully you get to still get out to some water and enjoy your hobby and or profession. Do they really need to add service swimming when EVA is basically that and we have a whole space to do it in? Listen, yeah, I like water, all right? Sometimes I want to swim around and be able to take my helmet off. Underwater drilling platforms to use at the bottom of oceans? Okay, all right. Are we Subnautica now? It would be cool. I don't know how far they're going to go with that kind of stuff. The video, like I said, that I'm working on for this week is basically going through this whole roadmap of 1.0 and judging the realistic nature of being able to deliver all these things in the next 2 to 3 years. There's stuff on here, or there's stuff in Star Citizen that's not even on here. That you kind of have to... You got to wonder to yourself if, like refining gameplay, here they say new professions, and then they mention the builder, crafter, explorer, athlete, and more. But what is and more? You know, data runner? Is that included? Passenger transport? Refining? And then you got other stuff like player-made space stations, and the ability to attack them and commit warfare against them. It's all... This is a very, very complicated 1.0 they want to release. Yeah, we have static server meshing right now. Dynamic server meshing when I think they might actually Did I leave behind the video?
That is not taking time.
I think they say something about dynamic server meshing here. No, I don't actually see it. Yeah. Who knows about dynamic? Dynamic when? Fins all dried up. Do you think 1.0 probs is out like late 2028 at the earliest, but probs closer to 2030 is your expectation? Same here. Absolutely. You're just talking about a Super Mac about this and say they just need to make more realistic oceans. Like Earth is mostly ocean. We don't need sub-citizen buoyancy. I would like my citizen to be properly defined by his buoyancy. Very important to me. I'm buoyant design. Buoyant 2.0. So in terms of what we might expect at CitizenCon, we kind of went over this last week. So I won't bore you guys with my rambling and scrambling around the 1.0 roadmap to tell you what I think could be, but I do think this whole location stories thing will probably be included. I'm expecting a showcase that gives us a little look at Nyx. And probably base building. Nyx and base building, I think, being shown in the engine actually working would be a pretty good showcase to have. Also, possibly some more narrative. Like, they don't necessarily have to show us the exact stuff we would be doing, but maybe give us something that is relatively close to what we might be doing. So a narrative mission. Like if they had given us at last year's CitizenCon a demo of going into an underground facility, clearing it out and learning a little bit about a mission and stuff, we would have all been like, okay, that's great, but are you going to actually include it? And they did the following year. I think that would have been a great way to represent the idea of what we would be seeing in the next year, and that's what they should do at every CitizenCon. Check the progress tracker. Progress tracker is I don't trust the progress tracker. I like it for telling me what they're working on, but I don't really trust it for setting any sort of schedule. Ferrister, thanks for hanging out, dude. Really appreciate your company. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk. I'll be in touch. Would you be interested in being a VIP or bounty for a fan-made tournament? I don't know. It depends on the details. I would need to know the details. It was updated recently, like last week. Yeah, the progress tracker was updated last week. I think crafting got a little bit of an update. Maybe. Engineering has an update. They still say they were only updated in August, but I believe these just got updates. And they show the work being done on them. But like the end date isn't really reliable. Whatever the end date they show on the progress tracker is not the actual end date for the stuff they're working on. So it can be a little misleading. In the other section of your main inventory, you have two schematics. You assume placeholders. One is for a Razor, the other is for a Polaris. You have no idea how they showed up. Other section of your inventory? I'm not sure what exactly that means. Discord or DM. Actually, if you could shoot an email, that's the easiest way for us to get that stuff into schedule. Mrs. Tomato handles management of scheduling, of joining into other events and stuff like that. So that would be the easiest way to get that on our radar. and see if we're interested. Just send all the details there over to Mrs. T, and then we'll be able to get things sorted and let you know if we're interested or not. I can't confirm though, can't say for sure. It's a busy time of the year now, and we've got a lot of family stuff going on, so we might be a little bit strapped for time. Other is one of the filters you can select in the inventory. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why there would be schematics for ships in there. Maybe you got ahead of the game and you can see blueprints already. Or they're placeholders. Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of that. So we're gonna up and have a lot done. You're still the man either way. Well, thank you. I appreciate you. You could shoot us an email at spacetomatoflies@gmail.com. Thanks for reaching out. There are items you can buy in the subscriber store, but they don't do anything. I've never heard of them. Are you sure they're not models? Maybe they're like flare items in the game, little models that you can have in your hangar and stuff when you look at inventory and filters. I can't answer that one. I don't know about that. Command modules were changed to be further back. Command modules. I don't even see. Oh, a new creature. They at least have scheduled for being mostly done, but again, you have no idea what that really means. I don't see command. Oh, here we are. Command module. Yeah, going until February. I mean, that tracks. We expect it to be something that gets launched with the Faterpillar. And I'm guessing that ship's not coming until Invictus of next year. Good thing there's no CitizenCon to cover. You'd be really busy. Well, believe it or not, I still have to cover what they do release, and I will still be really busy with it. In fact, for those who are interested and are supporters, like I said, you can always join us for our live podcasts. Just like last year after CitizenCon, I will be having Luke Stevens on the podcast again. We'll be doing a whole sort of retrospective talk. He's actually more interested in getting a little more informed this year going into Star Citizen or Citizen the day, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm interested in what our talk's going to be about. It'll be the Sunday after CitizenCon Direct, and it'll come out just like normal on Monday, but it should be a good talk from somebody who's a little bit more outside of the industry, looking in, still excited for it, but maybe doesn't know everything that's going on with it. "2 hours light work." Dude, I will take a literal picture released by Star Citizen and put together hours of content. 2 hours of released information. That's hefty work, man. Who's that? Oh, he's a YouTuber who covers general gaming news and stuff. You're the inside guy he was talking about on this stream? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know who he's all talking to. But we talk pretty regularly throughout the year. Ever since our first podcast episode, we'll be back and forth occasionally. Will they add accounting in Star Citizen? You want to sit in a desk? You want a desk job? Do you want to be a space desk lackey? Yeah, he does a lot of reviews on YouTube. Sure, it's not pay to win, but I'm going to say it's pay to win. I don't think he's I don't think he's alone in that. There's definitely CIG has a challenge ahead of them in clearing the air of you know, how pay to win it might be, or whether you actually do have to pay to unlock things. All that kind of stuff is just, in general, that's a tough spot that they've put themselves in with that. A reputation that they've got to shed. Feel like he's critical to be critical, doesn't have a huge amount of support for half the stuff he says. Well, maybe I can fill in the blanks. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and call it for the day. Oh, we have the Twitch giveaway to do before we head out. The main thing that gets you right now is that scanning was pushed back multiple months, and it's still not in the EPTU. That one hurts. That one hurts quite a bit because I thought it would be easier to get into the EPTU than engineering, but it still seems to be taking longer, probably for other reasons. But yeah, that's another feature that I was hoping we'd see this year. Is there going to be a cooking stream after this? Not today, but we will be back, of course, on Wednesday as we normally are, and Mrs. Tomato will be doing her streams. Like, even if there's not a cooking stream directly after this stream, keep an eye out for Mrs. Tomato streams. Go hit that bell, add the notifications, and stay wary because she does cooking streams now most days of the week, the weekdays, where you can come in and chat with her. I'll be in chat as well, modding and stuff, and just hang out and see some good food get prepared. In fact, I could give you guys, just in case you're not following the channel, go check it out, give it a little follow, keep an eye out for when it goes live, and I will see you there in chat. And yes, we have a Twitch giveaway going on. Exclamation point ticket will get you entries into that. It's for an undersuit and helmet in Star Citizen as a little thank you for the incredible support coming from the big perp this lovely stream. I will go and check with Mrs. Tomato right now, and we will see if we can close up that giveaway and see who can win. Oh, thank you for being a part of such a healthy community. It ain't just me, man. That's a two-sided battle, or a two-part team. Whatever it might be. Give me 1 second, folks. I'll go get that giveaway ended. All right, get in your last entries. I think it's going to close down. Mrs. T with the countdown. Hopefully the bot doesn't get overzealous and try and block you. 3, 2, 1. Giveaway has ended. Big ups. Thanks, Twitch. And PK Payback has won the giveaway with a 109% chance of winning. What? All right. Well, congratulations, PK, on rigging that. I don't, it just basically took away everyone else's chance of winning. Hey man, you know what? When you get on Toes Gang that often, it's basically cheating at that point. Yeah. PK's Super Toes Gang can confirm. He's here on the board. Appreciate you though, dude. That has nothing to do with it being on the board, but you do get more points over time for doing that kind of stuff. Either way, enjoy your undersuit and helmet, sir. We will be in touch. Thank you though, everybody, for joining for this stream. Thanks for hanging out and chatting and or listening and having a good time. How do you get points for the tickets? Just watching the stream will get you points. Following gets you points. Watching gets you points. Subscribing, bits, anything, any action on Twitch gets you points. And PK is definitely a regular here. So he has a lot to give. Thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you have a wonderful week and had a great weekend. I will see you on Wednesday for some gameplay and some cooking and some good times. I could have just asked who has the most point and given it to him. Yeah, like PK, I bet Cubint probably has a ton of... Cubint, I'd love to see you on Discord, by the way. I know you asked a question there, but we'd love to chat more in the server, dude. But yeah, we have some millionaires in chat. We'll have to find some stuff for you guys to use your points on. You only had enough for one ticket, but you're in here every stream. Well, that certainly doesn't make sense, Gallo Alloway. You should have more than enough for a ticket. That's weird. We'll look up your name on there. Let me just type that real quick. Because that's strange. We can go and look up and see where you are in terms of points. We'll get back to you on that, okay? If I don't bring it up on Wednesday, please poke me about it and let me know, and we will let you know what the explanation for that might be. But thank you, everybody, for being here. Congratulations, PK, on your winning. Congratulations to all of you for being here for this stream. You are so lucky to have been able to... No, I'm kidding. I'm lucky and grateful for all of you being here. Thank you again. I will see you on Wednesday. Give yourselves a hug. Treat yourselves well. Do something you love today. Spend some time with people you love, and have some good food. You deserve it. I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.